morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 13th day of August 2024. Welcome to our show today. We're going to have an interesting show today. First off, we're starting out with John Tater with Lawful Defense. After that, we're going to go back to Off the Grid at 10 o'clock as Courtney Turner couldn't come on this week. She's got some busy things going on with her event that's coming up. So graciously, Ralph, Karen, and Dr. Kent are going to be coming on this morning during that hour to fill that time. And then at 11 o'clock, I'm going to continue on with this documenting and bringing on the J6ers for interviews so that we can hear what they have to say, as well as understanding what it's like to stand when things are really tough. I got to tell you, I know that probably myself and everybody else out there is really feeling a lot of pressure. Let's say pressure right now. A lot of things changing, a lot of things going on. And I picked up this little book this morning. I had this. It's it's Max Lucado book. I don't really read things that are outside of the Bible, but I think I bought this years and years ago. And for some reason, I just picked it off the shelf today because I didn't have it sitting there. And there was one verse that jumped off the page for me today. Those people who keep their faith until the end will be saved. Matthew 10:22. And his expository things that he's putting besides that is, are you discouraged as a parent, as a person today? Hang in there. Are you pessimistic about your job? Roll up your sleeves and go at it again. No communication in your marriage? Give it one more shot. The land of promise, Jesus says, awaits those who endure. It's not just for those who make the victory lamps or drink champagne. No, sir. The land of promise is for those who simply remain to the end. And I thought it was really interesting because I literally just opened the book up and that jumped off the page to me because I was like, man, I think everybody needs some encouragement right now. I know a lot of people who are going off the rails just a little bit, who are having a hard time holding things together, who are finding distractions rather than just getting in and hammering out the hard work. It's distraction. It's bread and circuses that I'm seeing a lot. And we need to get back to just being faithful and continuing to stay the course and don't get off. Don't let the discouragements get you down. What I've learned in life is that about the time you get discouraged on anything, it's about the time you're going to break through and have some sort of success. So if you're feeling a little bit under the weather today, not having a struggle with things, remember, it's probably darkest right before the light, and just keep pushing through. Those are those times you got to keep moving forward. And I just wanted to bring that up this morning. So anyhow, 11 o'clock is the J6ers, and we have two new guests on, and let me look at their names a minute, because honestly, we're going to have two people a day, every day. And we have William Sarsfield and Russell Alford on with Jalise Middleton. But right now I'm going to bring on my buddy, my faithful buddy that's been with me from the beginning and has taught me more about history, Constitution, lawful defense than I think any single person has in my entire life. I just want to thank you so much, John. You're amazing. And welcome. So what's happening in John world?
I don't feel discouraged.
Well, good.
I don't feel a dark day. I feel that we are breaking through finally. I guess it's been because I've been at this so long, since 1980s, when we were fighting the Internal Revenue and a lot of the nonsense that was going on back then, because of the Warren Commission and the Warren Supreme Court, where they passed all of these rules and laws and regulations to put us under what they call the administrative state, which means that according to Chevron, the organizations that make the organizations that have been put into power illegally because they're not constitutional, they're not de jure, they're de facto, those organizations, such as the Internal Revenue and the FBI and the CIA and all of those alphabet organizations that do not exist because they're not part of the Constitution, but were brought into power under the Warren administration back when. And the reason that they were brought into power is to bring in the administrative state, which means that those bureaucrats that occupy offices that are not legally or constitutionally de jure, those offices then took over the power of the legislature and the executive branch. And even when Trump got into office, it was the senior, what do they call it? The senior executive branch or something that was trying
Senior
to.
Executive Services, SES.
Yeah, that you can't do this.
It's got Kristen Marcy in it. And that goes back to like Able Danger and all of that sort of thing with Kristen Marcy and such. So, if you look into that a little bit, that becomes a real crazy rabbit hole to go down through.
Yeah,
and they're really running. It's a very small group of people that are entrenched that are really running the government. If you want to go back to the deep state, that's the head of that little snake. I think the head of the whole snake is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right here. But you can seriously. I want to go back to the discouragement because you brought things up, and to see what's changed is amazing. I think that to keep the perspective and be able to see the tearing down of the things that have to go before we can build on it is the most important thing. And also tearing down of what people think is a real something that's going to come to save them if they get in trouble, like some of these unconstitutional agencies. They see that as a safety line. Well, it's still there. I mean, even the American population, even if they hate it, they still see it as a safety net. If something goes wrong, I can still go to those agencies and get bailed out. And those are the same ones that are tearing us down. It's just like the political parties. It's easier to stay in a group of people, even if that group of people is a bunch of lemmings jumping off the cliff. It's part of the herd mentality that we have as human beings, where there's differences. There's actually prey animals and herd animals. Herd animals, and people are a herd animal. We like to be together and such. And I see it in horses all the time. Horses will run to their own demise if they're afraid of something. They won't stop and look and listen. A mule will stop and plant their feet, and they won't do anything. They just stand still, right? They stand still and they stop instead of running to the. People will run to their own demise if they're afraid, because as long as they're in a herd, they're not thinking, and they go along with the herd thinking that the herd is going to give them protection. But the problem that we have right now is the herd mentality gives them a whole bunch of us to pick off at the same time, because just like the vaccines, they could pick off a whole bunch of us at the same time because of that herd mentality. Well, if everybody decides to stand there like a mule, plant your feet and say, I'm unmovable, hell no, and I'm not going to look at the guy next to me to see what they're doing. I'm going to sit here and evaluate the situation myself and take time to evaluate what you're seeing. It won't be such a reactionary response. We think through it, just like this. Think through it. Chevron got reversed. We're seeing the destruction of the old guard. And those things that we've been taught to rely on, they have to go away. And so we're going to have to be real strong in that and look at what's really going on, not on a reactionary emotional response. So going back to what you said, and to your point, there's a lot of things going on like right now, like the Chevron and such, that it needed to happen. We're making large gains.
This is true. And what President Trump should have said when he became president to the senior executive services, hell no, you have to go, and not listen to him. And
not only hell no, you got to go, but you're going to Gitmo on top of it.
That's better yet. Hell no, to Gitmo you go.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need to put that here. I'm writing that down. It's going on a T-shirt. Hell no, to Gitmo you go.
We've been played for years and years and years. Those of you that have had your eyes closed and believe that this is America and American government will never do you wrong, you've been played. You've been played by the government for so many years. First of all, they come after you. They create the problem. David Icke said it perfectly when he said they plan. How did he put it? They create the problem, and then they give you the solution for the problem. Solution, resolution.
Hegelian dialect. I mean, that's
It's been going on for years. It's been going on for years, and people that have kept their eyes closed don't want to really understand what's going on. Have perpetuated the problem that we are living through at this moment. Those people that think that the people in Lansing or Washington are leaders, then guess what? You're sheep. If you're not the leader of your own life, if you haven't been able to run your own situation, be your own politics, be your own government, then you're the sheep. Then you're just following somebody else.
Well, think about this. Everybody is going and following, oh, we got to have the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, blah, blah, blah. It's like
I wore the right shirt.
Yeah, I like that. You wrote the absolutely right shirt. We are Americans. The political parties, we were warned of them. And I don't care what you say of anybody out there. When you look at what happened with the J6er political prisoners, not one damn one of them stood up to do the right thing. And Marjorie Taylor Greene can shoot her mouth off all she wants. She could have stopped this, which leads me to believe that she's compromised in some way or another. She's got all the great work. What's that?
Or she's ignorant. There's a lot of people out there that are just ignorant. But they don't understand the Constitution, and they don't understand what their job is. They don't know what the legislature is supposed to be doing.
They have all the great words, but they don't do anything. Every single person that was in the legislature in Michigan in 2020 laid down, rolled over, and watched this thing. Not only watched this thing, handed it off to the Board of Canvassers to certify it. They were all in bed together. All of them walked away from their oath of office and their duties to make sure we had a good election. There was enough proof there right then and there to ask for an investigation. And they all just went right over the top of it and said, certify it. There was, don't question this, certify. And that was the Republicans and the Democrats. And I think that what's happened to the Republicans that's so dangerous is that they've been taught, go along. You have to go along with the Republican Party or you're a traitor. Don't ask questions. Stick with us. Stick with us. And it's like, you better ask questions, because that's the same party that walked away from President Trump in the first place. They walked away from him. They didn't stand behind him with a stolen election in 2020, and they did nothing. Now, I think we've got a lot better people in there that have come in there to make a change, but the cuts aren't deep enough. This is like putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. Someone's got to get in there and start absolutely doing what a hatchet person would do in a corporation and start cutting out the corruption and the illegal moves that have been made. It's not going to be a positive or a popularity contest. It's not going to be a popular decision in most of these things that need to be done. The person that does it, the everyday American, is probably going to love it because it's going to put the money back into their hands. But there's going to be a ton of propaganda out there to take down anyone who's actually going to make the cuts necessary. Not just say they're going to make them, but actually make those cuts. And it's going to be a little painful. A lot of people, they're going to be crying like a bunch of crying babies out there because they've been sucking off the system for so long. They don't even know how to do anything else. And that's about 30% of the population right now. This is what a communist society looks like. We have about 30% that are on government contracts, direct payments, and blah, 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 on down the line. If we hauled in some of this money laundering that's going on, because most of it's going on to high-level officials, but it's going to have to take pretty much a lot of it down and then turn that money around into a humanitarian effort, we would have so much money to serve Americans, everyday Americans. It would be shocking to enable them to live their lives and also create the things they want done. It'd be very easy to do by somebody who's business minded, but we don't have that. All we have is parasites in place that only know how to go back to the same thing. We got to raise money to have another damn fundraiser, to have another damn fundraiser, to have another fundraiser. For what point? To let the corporations place their puppets in who are compliant and who will go down that money by the pound, path. But I digress. I'm kind of done with this.
Let's go back to the real root of the problem. The real root of the problem is the banking system. The real root of the problem is banks create money out of nothing. They give you credit, and it's out of nothing. They have no backing for that. Well, when you have no money, when you have no backing, if I give you a credit card that has a totally unlimited amount, you can spend whatever you want, you never had to pay it back, how would you behave? Just human nature says, well, I got this credit card, and it's open-ended, and I can spend all I want. I can buy a yacht and a boat, and after I buy my airplane and everything else, now I can buy people.
Yes.
So this is the problem that we have. We have a banking system that is totally out of control because we first of all, we put it there and we allowed it to happen. Not me specifically, but people in general have used the banking system. And of course, they put a mortgage out for your house. Where's that mortgage come from? It's created out of nothing. They create all of the money that you need, supposedly the dollars. You buy your house and then you pay it back. Where does the money come from in the first place? The money doesn't come from the bank. The money doesn't come from the government. The money comes from you. You are the one that created the energy. You are the one that produced the product. You are the one that creates the money, and the banking system takes over that. How? Through income tax, through by stealing your property when they foreclose on it because you couldn't pay the mortgage on it, and so on and so forth. It's the banking system that's the biggest problem that we are facing.
Politicians, and look at the DNR and such that are taking over private property for their own use. I mean, this is how the oligarchs are getting so wealthy. They literally are using the organizations and entities in order to take over. They don't have to buy it through the traditional means like we do. They just take it over, and that's what they're doing with it. So it's the whole system, and the bankers and them are in cahoots together. When you look at the 2008 crash that went on, the financial crash in 2008, look at all the bankers that got millions and millions and millions, and a couple of them billions of dollars in kickbacks, payouts by the global elite or whoever for arranging
digits,
or for what?
Digits. They got digits.
For
they didn't get gold or silver.
But the system is still there. And so
I understand.
This brings up another thing. There's a guy out there that is pushing to not pay any taxes and say, just stop paying taxes. It sounds good. I'm going to tell you right now, the minute I listened to this guy, I looked at it and I listened to him for a few minutes and just looking in their eyes, and I'm like, this is a federal psyop right here, just like so many others. They're trying to get, without them taking on any responsibility for pushing people into doing something, they will have no personal responsibility, and they're setting people up. Guaranteed. Though I agree we shouldn't be paying those taxes, what they're doing is they're setting up people to be picked off by a federal agent. When I look in their eyes I watched them talk, it's just like I'll watch people talk. Tulsi Gabbard put out a video this last week or something about them, putting her on a special list. She's blinking way too much. Her body language tells me she's lying. And because people cannot hold a character, no matter what you say. If you understand the body language or how people behave, they can't help themselves. People can't, even the best ones can't hold a character for more than 15 minutes without cracking. And in some way, and I mean, that's a really good person. Usually people right off the bat can't hold it. And so, but these guys that are pushing not paying taxes and just saying we're just going to start a tax revolution, I would put any money you want to put on that they're feds that are setting people up to be arrested. That's not how you do it. If you want to fight this, stay focused. Stop grabbing onto these, I'm lazy, I'm going to grab onto this headline, and get in there and do the real work, which comes down to doing, say, a pro se fight, going after people for their violation of oath of office, for breaking the law, like Jocelyn Benson and Whitmer and Nessel are doing. They're breaking the law and going after them in a legal manner. And if the judges fail, go after the judges. If they fail, go after the cops. I mean, go after anyone that fails their oath, and go after them and hit them with penalties and fines that they can't get out of. Not the penalties and fines is not what I'm looking for. What's the word? Damages personally. Strip them of everything they have. You can do that as an American citizen.
I don't disagree with you. In fact, I'm doing it.
Well, I am too right now. I've got 2 cases I'm working on right now.
I'm going after 3 judges. So my case is not quite finished yet, but it's very soon. It's going to hit the court system.
I think we've got one this week, and then hopefully the other one this week might be done, but it may be next week too. But there's going to be retribution that's going to come for every bad choice, and it's going to come from God Almighty at this point in time, because most of the problems we have stem off of individuals that make bad choices. And this is one of those things that every single one of us has to be so clear on what the path that we're on and what we're not willing to do. Not what we're willing to do, but what we're not willing to do when pushed in a bad direction, just like a horse, jumping off a cliff. Anyhow, do you want to go to this case?
Yeah, in a minute. I just wanted to, because these are kind of tied in together.
Okay.
But the point that I'm trying to make is, we talked about Benson and Nessel and that crew, and we're talking about the J6 people. My question is, who's responsible? And maybe you can answer this, and maybe you can't. Maybe you choose not to answer it. Who is responsible to make the laws regarding elections?
Legislature.
Exactly, 100%. Only the legislature can make laws, rules, and regulations. And yet the executive branch, and I believe it was Benson, is trying to make new laws regarding elections. She doesn't have that authority.
So what is the all 3 of them looks like they were colluding to change the election laws. The 3 witches were colluding to step outside of dealing with the legislature to change election laws.
So what is the legislature doing?
Nothing. They're a bunch of it's worthless. They are not addressing anything. They will not stay in their designated duties. They sit there and they vote on nonsense, which is unconstitutional, and they ignore their duties to keep to follow what they're supposed to do, because they're all over the place. Nobody is following a job description as a public functionary. They're doing whatever they want to do. They're going into other people's jobs or areas and such. That's why we have chaos. It is absolutely chaotic. There's no accountability because nobody knows what their job is and nobody's following what their job is.
Article 3 of the state constitution says separation of powers of government. The powers of government are divided into 3 branches: legislature, executive, and judicial. No person exercising the power of one branch shall exercise the power properly belonging to another branch, except as expressly provided in this Constitution.
Where is that? What's the article and section?
Article 3, Section 2, Michigan Constitution. How much clearer can it get that the executive branch is violating the Michigan Constitution, let alone the federal Constitution, which we haven't even gotten into, but their own Constitution, the Michigan Constitution, they're in violation of Article 3, Section 2. What else?
What else do you need? You know, what else do we need? They should all.
And now, if you want to even press that further, then you go to Pacific States Telephone and Telegraph versus Oregon, which says specifically that the election process and/or politics belongs to the legislative branch. So now you got the Supreme Court saying the same thing. You got the state of Michigan saying, stay in your own lane. And we got these people that we put into office that do whatever they want, and we don't hold them accountable. We don't hold them accountable. How do we hold them accountable? We start writing notes and letters to our legislative branch and say, what in the H are you doing? What are you doing? You're not doing your job. You're not doing Article 3, Section 2. Starting there, you're supposed to be responsible for the voting, for the election process, and you're giving it to the executive branch.
And an appointed board, the Board of Canvassers, which is appointed by the governor. Do you think anyone on that board who is appointed as a Republican is a freaking Republican? Do you honestly think that? And I'm not saying it to you because I know you're smart enough to get this figured out, and so is most of the audience out there. But we have to look at that and say, are they Republican? Are there two Republicans and two Democrats? Well, why aren't there other parties in there? Why aren't there other options? There's another question. Why is it that they are completely funneling these down through political parties who can slap a label on it and walk in there as a communist and do whatever they want? She's not going to appoint somebody that's for the American people. She's going to appoint people that protect her goals of tearing this state down and turn it into commie central.
Well, that is the exact reason why we have three branches of government. Who is responsible to allow the election or the appointment of these Board of Canvassers? It goes to the president, or in the case of the federal
Whitmer.
government.
They're Whitmer appointees.
Whitmer can bring them on board to as a possible appointee, but who says that the legislature
does? The legislature is so busy passing rules and bills on the American people, which are unconstitutional, that they literally have abdicated what their primary job role is. In my opinion, that's what I'm seeing. They are not doing their jobs. They're doing everything but their jobs.
Okay, and then this new case on Trump versus U.S. or U.S. versus Trump.
Okay.
Says, and she's using the appointments clause. So I'm going to read the first part of the appointments clause, and that's in this article.
What page is it on that you're going to?
Well, this is out of the Constitution.
Okay.
Article 2, Section 2. You don't have to bring this one up. I just want to point this out. He shall have the power. This is the president. And this is also because every state and every county and every village and township are required to have a Republican form of government according to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, right? So the state has to have a Republican form of government, which means that they have to follow the federal Constitution. So Article 2, Article 2, Section 2 says in the appointments clause, which Cannon brings out, it says, he shall have the power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint, and then it goes on to people that such as Jack Smith and so on and so forth. Anybody that he wants to appoint, he appoints them. And the Congress or the Senate agrees to it, 2/3 of the Senate agrees to it to allow it to happen. So here we have the Board of Canvassers being appointed by so-called executive leaders, not leader, executive public functionary, such as Whitmer, appoints the Board of Canvassers, but 2/3 of the Senate have to agree to that. Now, did the 2/3 of the Senate agree to that, to those Board of Canvassers? And the answer to as far as my knowledge goes, no, they didn't agree to it. Because they never had a voice. They never brought it up for a voice. She just appointed it, and that's a dictator. That's a dictatorship. When you have somebody at the head of the helm, so to speak, the head of the government, appoint somebody, and therefore it is. It's a violation of Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, of the Appointments Clause. And now Cannon brings it out very clearly and says, the Appointments Clause has been violated in this regard. And that's Jack Smith. What happened with Jack Smith? Well, he was appointed by who? He wasn't even appointed by the president. He was appointed by the Garland. So it didn't even follow this Article 2, Section 2 at all. Garland appointed the Jack Smith, and it went on as he's the special prosecutor. Can't do that. Stay in your lane. And that's where this thing should have blown up in their face originally. Well, it did, obviously, in the Cannon decision. And so, let's jump to the Cannon decision. I don't want to read I don't want to go through it because it's long. It's 93 pages, I think.
Well, you don't want to read 93 pages, John?
It will be here for a couple of months.
Yeah, that's all right. All right. Better than watching the complete dumpster fire that's going on out there. We can at least read something that's going in a good direction.
Let's go to page 83, 84.
All right. I don't know exactly. Oh, you got this thing marked up just so beautifully.
Well, that's my sidekick, Ron. He reads everything, every word in there, and he marks it and he makes notes about it. So that's why I sent you that copy, because it's marked up very nicely.
Okay, there's 83.
Okay, 83. Start with the Supreme Court. It's underlined there. The Supreme Court sided with the petitioner, concluding that the judge's appointment was constitutionally defective under the Appointments Clause, which we just read, Article 2, Section 2. And then he goes on to talk about Riveter. She goes on to talk about Riveter. She says, Lucia undid the unlawful action by granting petitioner a new hearing before the constitutional appointed officer, supposedly. And if we go on, we're not going to even go to that next paragraph.
Well, it basically said that Special Counsel Smith has been exercising power that he did not lawfully possess. So in this case actually, if you wanted to copy and paste sections into something that that there's a violation against, like the appointments and such, you've got a case right here that's a gold mine of verbiage to hold these people accountable, instead of going, oh, we're just going to stop this or we're going to stop that. We got to get smarter, and we got to be able to grab these laws and grab the verbiage to be able and know it, to be able to, bring the hammer down on them.
Yes. And we're going to go on to a little further. I'm going to skip down to the next paragraph where it says, it bears nothing that Special Counsel Smith's work cannot be salvaged by the de facto officer doctrine. And the de facto officer doctrine they tried to use as a stop to say that they had the authority to put him in power and for them to do that. That's something you could read on your own. It's out there, but it's not necessary in this
And she
case.
cites Norton. This is amazing.
Yes, that's where I wanted to bring this to, because during the election time of the last cycle of election, there was what was that guy that was trying to run for AG? That attorney.
DePerno.
DePerno. 3 times we asked. I asked, somebody else asked, another person asked about, do you know Norton versus Shelby County? And he said, no, I read enough to know that it doesn't apply or that it doesn't have standing. Court cases do not have standing. People have standing in court. But he used that word thinking that, well, I'm going to get away from this guy by saying it doesn't have standing. Then he turns around and he says, everybody knows about Norton, which means that it's a conspiracy to keep it quiet. And then he further said at one point that, well, Norton doesn't apply. So here, Norton has been a court case that has been 9-0. So it makes it stare decisis, unchallengeable. It makes it the law of the land. And these attorneys, and there's tons of them out there, Robert Muse is one of them, but there's a ton of them out there that don't know Norton, or at least claim they don't know Norton. I'm sure they do, but they don't want to bring it out, because if they bring out Norton, the bar is a quasi-governmental organization that has no constitutional authority. So it's in violation of Norton versus Shelby County, and it is a de facto organization. The bar is de facto, and people need to understand that. But a lot of people, play this little silly game that, it's our government and the government set these laws in place. No, the government violated the law, violated the Constitution, violated Norton versus Shelby County. But here we go on to point out, and what's important is down in the lower, for 2 reasons the doctrine does not apply here. First, the doctrine is designed to address technical defects in the title of office, and they're using Riveter as a court case. And then here, the problem is not merely technical defect. Instead, the problem is the absence of statutory created office to fill in the first place. As the Supreme Court has made it clear, and this is the kicker right here, there can be no officer, either de jure, and remember, de jure means constitutional, or de facto. As a matter of fact, if there is no office to fill. So Norton versus Shelby County stands, and she brought it out into the surface again. So these, I don't know what to call them, attorneys, and that is a bad name in itself. So these attorneys that don't know this shouldn't be practicing law.
So what I'm seeing here that is just amazing is that a governor that actually had some guts behind them could hang this thing on this one. And the fact that she put this in, that Cannon put this in here, could hang the entire corrupt government for the massive clean out that needs to happen under what we're seeing right here. She actually did us a favor. She set precedent she upheld it in a secondary way. These people are so screwed when they get somebody in there that actually knows how to apply the law and has the guts to do what needs to be done. They're so screwed.
I have been pleading Norton for over 9 or 10 years. Ron, my sidekick, and our group have been pleading Norton for 10 years, about 10 years. I used it in court 10 years ago. And my case was just summarily dismissed. Cop wasn't there. They just didn't want me around. They had me in the court as the last person. I pled Norton, and they just shut the case down. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to go into anything further. They just wanted out of it. And that had been what we had found on many court cases, many times that I have physically been in court, that when we plead Norton, they don't want to do anything about it. They want to ignore it and just go away.
They do. Yeah. But and the thing
is 10 years ago, we were talking about this case.
And
now it's just come to light, which is good.
The thing of it is, though, John, it's like I had never heard about this until I met you. And I remember the first time I jumped on your Zoom call, man. I'm going to tell you what, that's one of those painful moments you don't forget, because, it's like when, and I mean, it's true though. It's like, we can laugh at people for not knowing what they know, or we can bring them alongside and say, you have been so misled with this. It's not necessarily anybody's fault, but just take a few minutes to listen to this. You may have not have heard this before, and consider doing things or listening to another way to approach something or think about things. And I think that the listening part of it for all of us, we've got to be able to listen to people that and things that we don't know. And it doesn't mean that we're stupid. It means that we just don't know what we don't know until we know them, or somebody's gracious enough to share that information with us, like you are. You're very gracious at sharing it. I mean, talk about faithful. I mean, you are definitely a soldier, because you can see that in certain people and how much discipline they've had in their life. A soldier is always very disciplined. My dad was very disciplined. I could see that, you can see that in people who have a military background in them. They're very disciplined. And they learned that in order to, you just keep on going. You don't stop. Even if you don't see the end, even if you're not in control of this, even if you don't know what the plan is, you keep on moving, because you realize that the effort requires a no stop and unwavering attitude. And I just got to thank you so much for coming on every week and sharing what you know. I mean, it is extraordinary. It really is, because I never heard it before. I mean, when I came on there and they realized, if you guys, do you understand Norton versus Shelby County? And I read it, but I didn't understand the significance of it until you explained it. And it was like, oh my gosh, even reading it, most people are going to miss the significance, because there's so much legalese and crap that's out there that we're sorting through, that people have an automatic aversion to it. It's like, this is outside of our ability to understand kind of mentality. No, it's not. Everybody that's out there has the ability to understand this. You just got to take a little bit of time and then ask some questions. Ask somebody like John, who knows this thing inside out, backwards and forwards, who's been fighting pro se for years and winning. There's other people out there that have done it too. And that's where we learn. We learn from people that come before us. But anyhow, I digress. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for the kudos. I appreciate it. But the argument here is that if you quit, whenever you are, whatever your battle is, you lose.
Yes.
You don't quit, you have a very, very good chance, probably 100% chance of winning. But you've got to continue. Our system is set up in such a way that they expect you to quit and go away. The district court level, both in federal and state, are set up in such a way that they're going to rule against you 99% of the time.
Yes.
Because they expect you to just go away. You're not going to appeal. You're not going to go to Supreme Court, and you're certainly not going to sue a judge because, oh, they're the judge. They have immunity. No, they don't have immunity. They don't have any more immunity than you do, because since all laws, rules, and regulations come from you. Who says that? Downs versus Bidwell says we are the supreme power. We create the laws because we are the authors of the laws. The laws don't apply to us. That's what Downs versus Bidwell says. If you have the power to create the laws, then you have a power to make yourself immune, don't you? How can you make a public official or a public functionary immune? You can't. You can't give them immunity, and they certainly cannot give themselves immunity. And so if they step outside their de jure duties, then they are held liable, and that's
Curtis is out there on the chat that says, I'm requesting John Tater's help to file an emergency injunction. It's important. I said, what's the subject, Curtis? Hawk says, Curtis, my comments yesterday disappeared. What do you mean the comments disappeared? John Hawk said that. I'm not sure what the comments were that you put in the chat, John. I don't take anything out of the chat. I don't erase anything. So whatever's there is there. So I have no idea what disappeared. So go ahead and repost, John, and we'll see what's out there. And Charlotte said, yes, people rush when reading words and they look up meanings on fake Wikipedia. Books of knowledge older, and the older they are, the better. Yeah, Wikipedia, that's a whole nother hell that we could get into, But sometimes you can find things. It's sort of like AI. I've been playing around a little bit with AI, but AI is not bomb proof, and I don't do a lot of it, but I think that there's one of the projects that one of my companies is working on is putting out unmoderated AI. So like Chat GPT, Claude, OpenInk, all of that stuff is moderated. So they're showing you what they want you to know, and they're not giving you all the information. They're curating it. It's just like when we're on social media, they're curating how many of your posts can be seen. And so like if you've got a feed, unless people go directly to your feed, they're not going to see all your posts. They will give you just enough that come out in other people's feeds that follow you, that it makes it plausible deniability type stuff. But if you really want to know what people are posting, you have to go directly to their feed. And sometimes even that gets moderated. But the AI that's out there, you can get a lot of information out of AI. It's a great place to start, but it's not the definitive on anything. That's a great place to start, and then you've got to start confirming. There was I've been kind of looking for I went out to look for the 2020 clerks, and there's sites out there that are bomb proof, that you can get things. And one day I just tested it too. One day I said, who's my rep in Byron Center? And it was so far wrong. It wasn't our rep. So you kind of got to get in, and you've got to I sent it to your phone. Curtis said I sent it to your phone, yours and John's phones. Okay. All right.
Regarding censorship, I sent this opinion, Cannon's opinion, to you by email, and it got to you. Since then, I tried to send it out to my group, and it says it looks like spam.
Oh yeah.
And therefore, we can't send it.
I think this
censoring Cannon's opinion.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things, though, that sorry, Curtis, I was so busy yesterday. I know you sent it to me, but it says hundreds of thousands of West Michigan residents' lives will be in danger winter of 25 and 26. We'll absolutely take a look at that. And I've been so stinking busy right now, especially getting the J6er stuff up, because the people there need their stories told, because this is absolutely a usurpation. And if they can create political prisoners on American soil for J6ers, they can do it to anyone. So I'm one person. I'm not going to be able to save the nation or the state of Michigan all by myself. I'll help as best as I can, but everybody needs to get into this fight. And right now I'm working at least 10 hours a day, free, not asking for anything, except I would love it if people started passing the links on a little bit better to build the audience and get people in here that that it will jump on, that will jump on. So, but I asked Ralph to come in and Karen for the next hour. I would love to bring Ralph into this because Ralph absolutely loves. Morning, Ralph. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Ralph loves law. Ralph loves anything that's technically and specifically go into the details, weeds type things. So I thought I'd bring him in so that he can be part of this discussion too. He just jumped on here a minute. So
let me ask you a question. 6 of the J6er people have hired Robert Muse, attorney, to represent them. Robert Muse doesn't know Norton, or at least claims to several people in our group that he doesn't know Norton, or he hasn't paid any attention to it, or he won't give an opinion on it.
Is he willing to learn, or is he just not willing to learn?
Oh, this has been going on for several months. This is not something that has been brought out yesterday to him when he was publicly in I don't remember, somewhere Novi or somewhere around here. One of our people in our group asked him some questions, and again, he's playing, I don't know, but he wants money from the public to help him support or help him defend the J6er people when he could shut this thing down overnight with Norton versus Shelby County.
I love you for saying that so much. I love you for saying that so much. When you start watching all of this fundraising crap by these organizations, candidates, some of it has to happen. I'll give you that. But when you start seeing people going for corporate sponsors, or you're going to, how do I put it? Instead of going from point A to point B, they're turning this into a money-raising thing for their friends, for an industry that continues things on, instead of make the damn cut on what needs to be done and don't fall into this trap. If the attorneys are sitting there raising money for this stuff and they're not just going for the throat on this to stop these things, you got a problem. You can automatically start questioning the integrity of these people or their intelligence on whether they're going to end it, or if it's just sort of like, hate to say it, I'm going to say it, right to life of the cancer industry. You see that kind of stuff. They don't want to cure cancer. There's not one of them that want to cure cancer. They already know how to get rid of most of it. Those of us who have been diagnosed with cancer understand that, and also maybe have more information on how to, in fact, cure things which they say are incurable.
Why would I want to pay or support somebody to get into office to get so they could have the opportunity to steal from me once they're in office?
Right.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Why would I support them so they could steal from me later?
But you're not a good Republican, John. You're not a good Democrat. You're not a party guy. You're not a party guy, John. You're one of those guys that would buck the Nazis in Nazi Germany. You would actually say, "Well, I'm not going to stand with the party, would I?"
Not at all. Not at all.
Another reason to love John Tater, right there.
People need to break away from this nonsense.
Yeah. Or, it's like every time I see somebody with their hand out for any reason whatsoever, I don't care what it is, I sit there and I go, oh, okay. Well, your next step is either going to be one step towards the political industry to do it the same way everybody else has, which is contributing to the problem, and nothing will change.
Does everybody know that we're having a neck and neck campaign between Trump and Kamala? Is there anybody out there that believes that to be true?
I don't believe it.
They must be, they must
How
have
do you
left their
get the
brain.
poll numbers with somebody that is despised by everybody? Kamala, whatever you want to call her. There's a million derogatory terms for her out there. It's like how can you look at us with a straight face, anyone out there, and say, oh, they're polling neck and neck. In what universe?
Yeah.
But the news media says so, so we have to believe it, right?
You're right, Ralph.
So Ralph, we got to show you this case, this court case that Cannon came down with. John's been talking about Norton versus Shelby County for like a decade, right? And I'm a baby at it. When did we meet? We met about 3-4 years ago.
Yes.
I saw about 3-4 years
election.
ago. Yeah.
You came to our meeting last election.
Well, and it's like I came on the Zoom call right at the beginning of when I ran. I mean, that was literally, I think it was it was 21. 21 was when I think when I met you, and I don't even remember how I met you.
You answered my telephone call.
That's what it was, wasn't it? Because I actually picked the phone up.
Yep.
Yeah, if people call me with the number I always put out there, I actually do answer that telephone call. So when you get fake Donna Brandenburgs out there, like posting on my accounts, like they do it regularly on Telegram, I put my number out there. You can pick up the number and call me, and I'll tell you whether it's fake or not. Or if somebody's like, well, somebody direct message me, you direct message me. I'm like, no, I didn't. You know, if you got any questions, pick the phone up and call me, because then I'll put you in my text message and I'll call you directly instead of through or arranged and manipulated social media, right? Can't count on that.
Well, you were the only candidate running for governor that answered my telephone.
Yeah, I actually answer my own calls. I don't have a secretary. I never did. I never did. I never had a secretary. I always answered my own calls and got back to people. Now, with that said, like Curtis texted me yesterday or the day day before, I don't remember now, but I have doing it myself. There's some advantages to it, but the disadvantage is that sometimes if I'm in the middle of something, which right now I'm writing we're working on a couple of lawsuits right now, jumping onto somebody else's sometimes is difficult. Not that I wouldn't support it, but that doesn't mean I don't support it or I do support it. What it does mean is that I've got my own work to do, and sometimes we all have to do our own work, and we can help each other, but it's not my responsibility or John's to fix anything. We're fighting on our own terms, and I think everybody needs to realize that nobody's going to save this nation. It's going to take people who are willing to pick up those squirrel guns like they did. And I'm not saying grab a gun and torches and pitchforks. That's how I'm talking about. Pick up your own stuff and carry it. And all of us working together, instead of having to be like a kindergarten freaking roundup, would actually fight this thing. But we can help each other. Absolutely. I help a lot of people. So
you do know that the laws in this country are on our side.
Yes. Here, I'm going to bring Karen in.
There's our squirrel gun.
Yeah.
They're on our side. All we have to do is know how to use them and know what they say. And
the processes, the lawful processes are on our side. And what they want to do, what the bad guys want to do, is to inflame people to do a stupid reaction.
Yep.
Like, let's just not pay our taxes. You think that's going to work well? You think there's enough of you that could get organized? Shoot, we can't even get organized to agree on cookies at a meeting that has 12 people. You're not going to be able to organize enough people that are going to do that, so they're going to pick you off one by one. The only way to fight this is to go. It's just like the Fedsurrection that happened in Michigan with a Whitmer kidnapping. That was a setup. This is going to be another setup. And
it's knowing the laws, and it's knowing how to apply them that'll save you if you're going to try to stop paying taxes. I haven't paid taxes since 2002. So, and I'm willing for them to try to take me to court again if they want to. But my documents are so strong right now, they're not willing to. And now with the Cannon case and with Chevron and all the other cases coming out, we are kind of kicking them to a point that they don't have the power that they had in the past. They just don't have it.
So have you paid zero taxes since 2002?
Correct. Income tax.
Income tax. What about property tax?
Well, property tax I pay.
Okay.
Property taxes is a direct tax upon the property, and they can take the property. Income tax is a totally different animal. So you got to know that. You got to know the law. You got to know what they can do and what they can't do, and who can do it and how they can do it and how they can't do it. So if you don't know the law, you don't start. You learn first. You don't try it and then say, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble. Now what do I do?"
And go after somebody else's headline. You can't just say, "Yeah, I'm going to follow this person for their headline." Same thing happened with Axe My Tax. And I was warning people for a long time about this. I'm like, it's filed wrong. The person that was running it was actually in politics very strongly, though she said that publicly that she was not. And there were things that didn't make sense. And all of a sudden, when push came to shove, I put it out there. I'm like, all right, guys, enough of this dance around the issue. This is the real issue. And it was after June 15. It was past the point of filing, and people were still following this effort, even though they didn't have enough signatures. They were still wasting people's time collecting signatures. They never filed the signatures because they didn't have enough. Missed the deadline, but continued to see how many stupid people would follow this thing. And then the person got a nice little comfy government job in a building inspections department. This is how this works. And it's going to continue on. And you know what? I hate to say it, but people are going to have to smarten up, or it's going to take them hostage. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
But
that's the game. Yep.
So let's bring this up with. I'd like you to bring Karen and Ralph up to speed on this, because when I bring this up, Dr. David's here too. Hey, David, how you doing?
Good morning.
Good. I'm going to bring everybody in on this because we're talking about the United States, Trump versus United States. And the Cannon decision, and let them know exactly why we've been pounding this and why this was such a huge win, in the fact that Cannon quoted Norton versus Shelby County, and why this is so important, because it goes into the de facto and de jure offices and what they're able to do.
Basically, Norton versus Shelby County has basically set up exactly what the republic is supposed to do, how it's supposed to operate. It's got the terminology, de facto, for example. It doesn't call public officers or officials. They're not officials, they're not officers, they're not leaders, they're public functionaries. They have a function in government which they're supposed to operate and do. So that's one of the things Norton brings out. Norton also brings out the difference between de facto and de jure. De jure means by law, by the Constitution. De facto means as a matter of fact. So what the Cannon decision brings out is probably the most important point that many of the court judges have been trying to hide from us, and of course the attorneys are acting like, oh, we don't know this case, we never heard it, or I've only looked at it and it doesn't apply, or whatever. So their argument is, Norton's argument states basically, and she quotes it here, which makes it great: there can be no officer, either de jure or de facto, if there is no office to fill. Now what that means is, if you go back to that paragraph in Norton versus Shelby County, it says an unconstitutional act is not a law. So if it's not in the Constitution, it's not a law. It also says if it's not in the Constitution, it doesn't exist. If that office is not in the Constitution, such as the FBI and the CIA and the you name all the alphabet organizations, if it's not written in the Constitution, it does not exist. And so that's what she used to get rid of Jack Smith as a prosecutor, because he has no constitutional authority to be for an office, to have such an office as a special counsel. Doesn't exist. It's not in the Constitution. And then she brings out the appointments clause, which says that only the president can appoint a officer to fill that position, but it has to be approved by 2/3 of the Senate. And of course, neither of those things happened because it was the guy, the DOJ, which by the way doesn't exist either. DOJ doesn't exist because it was brought on by an act by General Grant. When General Grant was president, he had an act that brought in the DOJ. So the DOJ doesn't have the constitutional authority to exist either. So how can you have somebody from the DOJ, which office doesn't exist, appoint a special counsel, which doesn't have any constitutional authority to exist either? So she blasted him in her court case. But what makes this most important is if you go to an attorney and you ask them, what do you know about Norton versus Shelby County? They'll pretty much say, well, the case doesn't apply. It's too old. It's too this. It's too that. It has no merit. It has no standing, as DePerno said. This kind of language that they use to get you off of their questioning is things that because they don't want to deal with this. Now, I've dealt with this in court for 10 years, and the courts don't want to talk about Norton. So if you bring that out as part of your argument, especially at the very beginning, they want to get you out of the courtroom.
Is this, John, is this similar to the Chevron decision?
Well, the Chevron case is good because it removes the administrative powers that was brought on by Warren and those morons back then, where they made this administrative power to these alphabet organizations that they could go and make laws and rules and regulations. They don't have that authority. Never did.
So Norton takes it one step further and says, you can't even have these agencies.
Yes. They don't exist. They don't even exist.
Yes, they can't exist. Is there a way for the government to legally set up an agency?
Through the Constitution.
Okay. They have to follow whatever rule was laid out. And they didn't do that for the current agencies.
Yeah, remember what the rule of law says. If it isn't written, and this is the 10th Amendment, if it isn't written in the Constitution as an authority delegated to the Congress or to the president by the Constitution, they don't have that power. So it goes back to the Constitution that says there's no, I've looked through the Constitution, read it a zillion times, and never found anything in there that says they could have an FBI, they can have a CIA, they can have all these alphabet organizations. They were created by government for one reason or another. Now, if they can create the FBI, why don't they create a gun removal organization, Department of Gun Removal? They could do that because they created the CIA and the FBI, right?
Right.
It's just they created an organization. Or the ATF. The ATF, it doesn't. That's another one that is not de jure.
IRS as well.
IRS as well.
One thing that I can see, though, that could potentially be a problem with this is that if this was actually widely acknowledged and enforced properly, that our lawmakers are currently so corrupt that I could totally see them calling a constitutional convention just to try and ramrod this stuff into the Constitution to try and get it authorized to keep the status quo the same.
They're already doing that. They're already trying to do a constitutional convention to change the rules like they have been. John, one more thing I want to have you talk to, if you would, is why the 1963 Constitution in the state of Michigan was installed incorrectly. Because we don't even have a real constitution here. They did it wrong.
It was installed by 1/10 of 1% of the vote of the public. That makes it a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have 2/3 to do an amendment, but you could get 1/10 of 1% of the popular vote and make a whole new constitution. That makes it a democracy, and we don't have a democracy. Article 4, Section 4 of the federal Constitution says we have a republic.
How far back do we nullify?
Well, to the last Constitution, which was 1903, I think it was.
They do that correctly?
That was done correctly.
Maybe we should make a new Constitution and get 1/10 of 1% or 2/10 of 1%.
What we need to do is totally eliminate the Constitution eventually. And I think it's coming up for review in 2 years or a year.
Really?
They're going to, yeah, I think so. I think every 5 years or 10 years it comes up for, that's more than that.
For
every
Michigan?
so often it comes up, yeah, for Michigan. I read something about it somewhere. I wasn't paying much attention to it because if we get somebody in office that is smart and intelligent and wants to do something correct, they would bring that up for review.
That's not happening with the current voting system.
No. Well, they've turned the voting system over to the executive branch, which they have no authority to do. That's Pacific States. Telephone and Telegraph versus Oregon says that and that's a 9-0 decision, such as Norton is a 9-0 decision, which makes it stare decisis.
So Norton was by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So
9-0,
but they don't follow it.
No, because they
ignore the
do
law.
whatever they want to do. Yeah, they ignore the law. They've been ignoring the law for years, and we the people have not brought them out to it. I mean, the Bar Association doesn't exist either because they're a quasi
It's a
governmental
club.
organization.
Yeah, it's a club. The lawyers are a
club.
club. They just pass cases back and forth, and it's horrible. Our legal system is a disaster.
Well, it's like a cartel. I mean, it's a cartel that exists to protect self-interest, price fix, in a way, as well as to grant favors or access that nobody else has, and that's not okay. Any of these organizations that protect industries is a direct attack on the American people. Too, even though they say they're not price fixing, they are. They certainly are controlling the market, and they're also creating a barrier for entry for anyone else, because then you've got to pay for the regulation that they paid the politicians off on, and pay for their materials, and pay for their regulation experts to come through and make sure that you're doing things by the cartel standards, which makes it almost impossible. They're not even worth most of the stuff that they want done. It's not about keeping people safe. No. It's about controlling the money flow and access and jobs.
And bringing back to the 1913 Act, which was an act, not a constitutional mandate. Therefore, the Federal Reserve and the whole banking system is illegal. It doesn't exist based on Norton and so on and so forth. I hate to cut you, but I gotta go somewhere and I gotta get out of here.
Okay, well, give us one thought that you're going to leave us with today, John.
Don't quit.
That's good.
Stay in the fight.
Fight.
That's right. It's the fight. If we stay engaged, we'll win.
Love it.
If we allow the nonsense to continue and we follow. Remember, if you follow the leader, you're a sheep. They're not leaders. They're public functionaries. And read Norton.
And read Norton. There you go. Okay, guys, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with Ralph, Karen, and David. Hang right on. We'll be right back. Second hour.
Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting you, John. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 13th day of August, 2024. And going to welcome everybody back to the show again, second hour here. We've got Off the Grid, my buddies, Ralph, Karen, and Dr. David. And the third hour will be with the J6ers again, the political prisoners in America with Jalise Middleton. And let's see, we've got to bring that back up again because we've got quite a docket going on with William Sarsfield and Russell Alford. It should be a lot of fun to hear their story, and more than fun, it's our duty to stand together when someone has honestly had their rights taken away. And this whole thing with the J6ers and the Gulag is every story I'm hearing, we're documenting. It's shocking. But anyway, hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Good morning.
Thanks for jumping on this morning. Courtney had to take off because she's got an event, and I know I can always count on you guys to jump on here, and I love it and we always have something to talk to besides that. This is always fun, just talking with friends with no particular direction to go in. But this whole thing with the court cases, I'm working on two pro se lawsuits right now. I'm hoping to file one this week and perhaps one the following week, because we're going to have to fight in court, and we're going to have to fight outside of civil action jurisdiction. We're going to have to fight this pro se, in my opinion, because they're just going to stall it out. If you go in there with a court case that involves an attorney, the time starts ticking, the money starts draining from your account, you go nowhere, and they have no interest in hurrying this thing along to right the things that are wrong. And it has been my experience. I've been in court a lot over the years, fighting for things that were done poorly, especially in a business capacity. And so we're trying something different, and I'm hoping to land a legal punch here that's going to perhaps cripple some of these bad guys, but it's worth a try at any rate. So John has been a dear friend, and he has spent so much time educating people on the Constitution and these laws. It's just amazing. And this decision, U.S. versus Trump, with Cannon calling out Norton versus Shelby County is an extraordinary win for we the people. It really is.
Has the government have they tried to appeal that to the Supreme Court?
Well, it's on the book since, let's see, we're gonna see if I can get the year on it.
No, I mean the USA versus Trump
No.
case. No, so they basically said that they uphold the Norton versus Shelby. They're not even challenged.
Yeah. So it's another upholding. Let's see. Curtis says Marbury versus Madison, another good case. And Constitutional County Home Rule Charter is the missing link. Public Act 123 of 99 was designed to take your property and give the government first dibs. Good information there, Curtis. I'll have you on someday and we'll talk about this, because I think people need to know what's behind the problems. So what else is going on here today, guys, in Ralph, Karen, and David world?
I don't know. It's a lot in the news. Tina Peters basically lost on a lot of her, I think like 7 out of 8 charges or 6 out of 8 charges. That's just terrible. Travesty of justice. Another one, Colorado. Courts are just as corrupt as Michigan. Just a disaster. I'm going to throw her in jail. It's unbelievable.
Excuse me. Yeah. I think people are going to have to find a different way to fight this, because it's not working what has been the accepted policy on any level,
Not in the court.
So, not in the court systems. And
everything is hinged on Donald Trump winning, to bring to change and allow to run the way it was supposed to run.
But it's such a close race. The news says so.
Oh my goodness. Did anyone look how many views of Trump's talk on X was yesterday? Last I looked, over 80 million.
Really? Okay, so I tuned into it for a little bit, and on my bent of listening to people's speech patterns, guys, there's something weird there. All right, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna say the unpopular thing right now, but I'm gonna say it. be very careful with what you're ingesting, because when I was listening to the speech pattern, he was slurring his words last night, and they were substantially slurred at
Yeah.
the cadences. And
Are you saying he did an interview drunk?
no, I would never say that he did it drunk. But
I'm just pointing that out because I know other people are probably going to say that, suggest that too. So now we got that covered.
He does not drink. And so I have some real questions, but every time I hear him and I hear something out there are things that are not making sense to me, and that's one of them. Let me see if I can find it. If you want to talk amongst yourselves, I'm going to see if I can find this and see
I can
if
send it to you. 177 million.
Did you just send me a link to it?
Send it to you right now.
Let's listen to this, and I'll show you what I'm listening to here, because it's a screenshot. Hang on, I'll put it on my Telegram channel. We'll just kind of go through this.
I did hear a comment that it's something to do with the spaces. It makes people sound like that. I don't know if they were just covering or whatever.
They're covering. And I'll show you why. Hang on a second. The last link. Did you send me a link here, David?
I just sent it to your phone.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm going to play this for people, and we'll see what you in fact think about this. Because I know I'm going to take a little bit of flack over this one. Oh well.
I think everyone noticed that something was just off a little bit.
Something was off. And hang on a minute.
Like he had braces on or something.
That's what it sounded like. All right. That's exactly what my point is there.
What do you think of Ralph? What do you think of that DD whatever
DDoS?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, man.
Yeah, possible, but another possibility for the audio and speech patterns being different could be that a lot of people have been suggesting lately identifying people by their teeth, and if somebody was wearing false teeth so that it looked the same, that would be also a plausible explanation.
It was a space. It was just audio. There was no video, so you couldn't really. It wasn't like somebody wearing a mask.
It's not showing up as anything that it was archived as live.
So DDoS attacks, it's plausible that could happen against Twitter, X, but it would be really tough to pull that off.
Well, they did. I mean, it was a half hour delayed. Everybody was trying to get on it, and it wouldn't let you on. And Musk came on and sent a bunch of messages that they're dealing with this giant DDoS attack.
Yeah,
after about a half hour, people started to be able to get on and listen.
It's possible, but any of the big providers actually being DDoSed instead of having an internal threat is something that I find a little bit suspicious.
Yeah.
An internal threat, that's pretty easy to pull off by a rogue employee sometimes, depending on the security culture of some of these companies.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the EU was extremely concerned that Trump was going to say something. They're obviously on edge, the deep state of Trump, that he's going to say something. They're setting it up to either, censor him whenever possible or claim that it's, he's a liar. Everything he says is a lie.
Well, the UK has been threatening to extradite Americans to the UK to prosecute them for hate speech.
Yeah, Elon Musk got a letter saying basically just same thing before he did this, before the space. If he does anything, they're going to put a warrant out for him.
Screw them. Good luck with that.
Well, they kind of already established the procedure for that with going after Julian Assange, which the entire idea behind that
And now
was
we have
absurd.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to play a little bit. We can listen to it. See if you can pick it out.
this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with the Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So you can't have repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously, by definition, continue to
done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people. A great inspiration, and I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up, and I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country.
The most important day. That's kind of stuff I was hearing.
Oh, yeah.
That election will be the most important election, and I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country. Because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the
Not sure what's
the reason you have crime, by the way, because we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where
all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes.
Sure.
And in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that. But there were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart
I'll be sleeping.
Was very important.
I'm not making fun of anybody here, just so anybody knows. I'm just trying to pick out things that are perhaps are not what they seem.
I don't understand how in the world they can have the audio that poor quality. That sounds overcompressed down to like 64 kilobits, which for something that important, that's absurdly low quality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to wonder, because we've been talking about this kind of thing for a while. I can see, and Donnie, you could probably see too, even better than I can. There are a number of Trumps. There's a golfer Trump. There's a Mar-a-Lago thumb up Trump. There's one guy whose teeth are really bright and really straight. There's certain ones that stand out. It's one thing to have a body double for transportation or out into public view where you're going to and from places and you want to make sure that the real Trump is safe. And I'm saying this generally speaking for any kind of celebrity. But it's a whole other ballgame when you have somebody going to court in his name, someone going to a rally and giving a speech or an interview in his name who is not him. It's like that movie Dave, which I haven't been able to see. Burning Bright did a show about it recently. I have seen it, but it's been a long time. I can't get access to it now. And I think there's a reason for that. But it makes me wonder, like I've been wondering for a long time, what is going on then if you have these people who are constantly replaced one way or another? If we're not seeing the real Trump, what is it, like if Trump is supposed to be in court and he's not in court, somebody else is in court, then what does that do to that court case? What does it do when I want to know who gave the oath? Who made the oath for the first presidential election that Trump won in 2016? Did actual Donald J. Trump take that oath, or was it not him? Was it a double? And so all of these questions, when we're listening to this Twitter account, if there's a lot of people reporting that they're questioning it, like there were a lot of people reporting a Biden interview where he was also making strange, different kinds of sounds with his teeth or whatever it was. Is that going to be a new narrative pattern, and I shouldn't say new, but increasingly growing question amongst the people in general, that we start asking as a people what is going on, or is this we're just going to pretend that we're going along with the show until we reach some sort of conclusion. I have no idea what that looks like. But to me, an election doesn't mean anything if we don't actually have an election for a real Donald J. Trump. Why are we even talking about the intricacies of an election if we don't know where the real guy is? If we don't know where the real guy is, and Biden is fake, and Pelosi is fake, and Whitmer is fake, then what the heck are we doing? What's going on?
Well, I hope he's safe wherever he is. Let me put it that way, because it's like, you can see all of this stuff, and I think that we need to ask. I think some of us, I'm sure that they've got to play a little bit of the spook world stuff to keep him alive, because everybody wants everybody out there, and the world, he's got so many enemies, want to harm him, which is disturbing to all of us, right? But I put that up there just now, that ex-AI bot Grok pushes unsubstantiated claims about Trump missing dentures. We're not making fun of President Trump. I'm just listening to, I love this man. I am absolutely going to vote for the man. I love him and such. It's like, and what he's done for this nation. I'm truly concerned about his health and welfare, his well-being. And why are there so many things out there that we really should question when we hear something or see something? We not only have the right, but we have the obligation. What if we're quiet and all of these fundraising sources that are out there in his name, which anybody can take a cursory look at this and realize this is not the same message that President Trump gave during his run. He actually cared about the nation and was, concerned about people. It wasn't all about this, money stuff that's going on now. I just had somebody tell me last week, you want to pay $70,000, you get a picture with President Trump taken. You want to pay $150,000, you can get a picture of President Trump taking President Trump. That doesn't sound like something that President Trump would say to me, which makes me really concerned that there's somebody else talking in his place. And it's like, when you hear all the speech anomalies, shouldn't we be questioning on whether the man is okay or not? I mean, we don't have to sit there and say it's not about making fun of him. Arguably, I'm making fun of a double or somebody who is.
Well, it's not even making fun of a double. I mean, the doubles are. Yeah, the doubles are trying. It's just, it's really hard to actually imitate someone in every aspect. And that S to SH thing is one of the things too that we talked about when they had a Trump at Turning Point Action.
Wasn't the same guy, I can tell you that just by looking at him, because he was the same height as Charlie. He was a little smaller than Charlie Kirk. And
that's not something that you can really compare when it's audio only.
Yeah. But you can see visuals. I mean, when I'm at places visually, I can see things and go, yeah, this is perhaps a problem.
But it does make me question too why it was an audio only interview, if that was once again to hide some of the visual anomalies of this particular double.
Maybe we're getting smarter.
Well, I think the spaces are always audio. And it also could be a bandwidth issue. I mean,
all right. Well, we have a debate coming up, so this is going to be an interesting thing to see. If this is an increasing concept where the people are going to be starting to question Trump himself, I personally think we're headed that direction, and that it's a very good thing. Because, as Donna pointed out, we must ask questions, and we have to be prepared to ask ones that are uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And of course, I would want to vote for Trump. I vote not for Trump. I vote for we the people. And he represents that. So if we find out that something terrible has happened to Trump or whatever happens with that, whatever happens with the narrative. We have to learn as a people to be willing and able to ask questions which make us very uncomfortable. Because if we're going to save the children, for example, we have to ask really, really uncomfortable questions. Was our own government trying to hurt the people with 9/11?
Absolutely.
Was our own government trying to murder, torture, rape, harvest children? That's a really uncomfortable question, isn't it? Well,
I think for some of us, those are not so much uncomfortable questions as known conclusion or known answers, but for a lot of people, it would be uncomfortable questions.
Well, that's why I'm pointing it out, because if we're going to get to that question about how our government and our people have treated children, one door through to that capability of mentally, emotionally, spiritually handling that question could be question Trump. If Trump is not who we think he is, the image of Trump, the doubles of Trump, that's a shocker, right, to the system of America. And I would be okay with that if it gets us closer to the shocker of we've been doing all these terrible things to children in our own country, and we have to do something about it. So I think the more people that start to question, who is that guy that we're seeing on the debate screen? He looks a little different than ex-Trump from the week before, or he sounds different than this guy that's on X. People right now, the majority of people are listening to what is the content of his message and how does it compare and contrast to other politicians. But is that really the question that needs to be asked? What if the question that needs to be asked is, who is that guy? And if it isn't who we think he is, then what's actually going on here? If we're capable as a whole society of asking a question that uncomfortable and that big, then maybe we can knock down that door of what's been going on with the children. Where did all the kids go from Maui and so on?
There's some big questions. I got to tell you, I became aware of a little boy over in St. Clair, and this is a horrific story. That was, I think it's been about 40 days since he was killed. And the question is, nobody's been arrested, but he was left with a boyfriend, and it included things like torture, vice grips on genitals, and throwing this little boy against the wall, and he's dead. And nobody seems to have any answers. They're not prosecuting. They're not locking anybody up. They're not doing a damn thing. And I know a lot of people over there that are absolutely sick. I'm trying to get them on to talk about it a little bit. And I think I can make some calls this week. But people are not necessarily talking, because part of the MO of the people in place is that they're guilty of this stuff. Look at how many pedophiles and how many arrests are happening to people. The arrests are happening, but the ones that are turning a blind eye, just like they did in the 2020 election, why is it that they aren't getting in the trenches and cleaning this stuff out? The drugs, the murders, the cops that have been shot, for gosh sakes, all of this. How come the corruption and the lawlessness continues to go on? How can it be that somebody can be walking free after they knew, it appears to me, whose custody he was in, and vice grips on a 4-year-old's genitals, thrown against the wall and murdered, and nobody's doing a damn thing? I have some questions. I've got some big questions, even on the local level. These people that we vote in and that are running the show, it was Rosalind Bliss in Grand Rapids, the mayor, that told the cops to stand down, because I talked to a detective, and he said they were told to stand down. They told the chief of police, by Rosalind Bliss, told the chief of police who took a knee when they were burning the city down, and the order was to tell the cops and the detectives to stand in a well of the police department and just watch this thing burn.
Wow.
Every single one of them that participated in this needs their citizenship stripped
Well, I need to go to jail.
and prosecuted. Even
So
the ones that took orders. If we're taking orders to do something that's wrong like that, we're guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So this brings up something that I've actually been thinking about for a while based on something that Karen said a while back. And that's, we question how to tell apart fakes from real in the public spotlight. But we don't really talk about that for also the people within our own groups, how to verify identities between people. And I mean, in a lot of cases, it's easy to spot if you know the person well enough to know that they're still consistent with what they've said in the past. If they're communicating electronically, if they're texting, if they're tweeting, that kind of thing. Sometimes you can kind of tell if it's consistent with their personality. You have a pretty good idea that it's them. But what if there's something that they're saying that seems a little odd? And something that I was thinking about for that is, I don't know if, I think we've talked about before some of the encrypted email options out there for doing PGP or GPG encryption of emails. But there's another aspect of that where you can use some of the encryption software out there, not to necessarily encrypt an email or a message, but to be able to sign it using a key that's secret to you. So you can generate an encryption key, encrypt it using a password that only you know, and then when you send an email or you send some kind of a message, you can sign that message using your key, and you have to have both your key and your password to unlock your key to be able to sign that message. And then anyone can verify that message using a key that you've previously, a public key that matches your private key, which you've previously published. There's a whole infrastructure behind that where you can, this is something that IT people have been concerned about since, I would say, the early 90s, really, is in being able to prove each other's identities. And kind of the cool thing about doing that using PGP encryption or GPG encryption, same thing, it's just open source versus closed source, is that it doesn't rely on a central authority to say, yes, this person's accurate. It relies on basically me getting together with somebody else and saying, okay, I have met this person in person. I know who they are. They gave me a key in person. I've been able to verify them. And so now I can trust their key. Now you come to me and say, is their key trusted by you? And you can kind of add up that trust from various people in the community and say, yeah, we've had 5 different people that I trust that have verified this person. They're probably who they say they are. And it's easy enough to do that nowadays using, Mozilla Thunderbird. If you use that as an email client, that has all of the encryption software for that kind of thing, for both encrypting as well as doing authenticated signing built into Thunderbird anymore. It's up in the tools and in the key manager. So a lot of this stuff has gotten really easy to use.
Why do we need that stuff, though?
Well, as more and more of the AI stuff comes around and starts being able to better and better imitate people, if you have a key that you can sign your messages with, AI is not going to be able to sign it using your key. So you can prove that a message actually came from you.
Got it.
Kind of like having a ring sealed in wax.
Yep, exactly. And it doesn't just apply to email. You can publish pretty much any kind of a message with a signature like that to be able to prove that it's you. and to prove that the message hasn't been tampered with too, because the signature also generally has kind of like a check of the rest of the message to show that this message, this particular message, unaltered, has been properly signed by this key. So there's a bunch of tools for that are really pretty cool and pretty accessible anymore. And if anyone wants to look into that, I would highly recommend looking into PGP encryption.
Okay.
All right.
Something to really think about, because I think that as we go forward, when we can listen to them talk about, we're watching a movie, which I believe there's a lot of truth to that. We're going to have to be a little bit more aware of our surroundings. And, and here comes back to this. The more time we spend in our local environment, our families, our communities, the better off we were. I don't think God created this world to be as large as it is. The mission field, quite honestly, I know a lot of people go to the mission field here, there, and everywhere. We have a huge mission field right here in the United States with the human trafficking, with the stuff that the nation hasn't done. I mean, think about this. They're taking our money away from people here, real everyday Americans, throwing it at every other nation on the planet, which hates us because the money never gets to the people. Why are we doing this? If we actually kept everything local, where we know the people we're talking to, we know the needs that are here, can you imagine what a difference there would be? It would be incredible if you had a bunch of people in the neighborhood that said, "Hey, this house needs a new roof on it. You know what? We're gonna meet over there at John's house or whatever, or Rex's house or whatever you want to say," and that the city actually helped buy materials. If we were going to even do that, or they did it through, let's just get rid of that tax funding, and people just decide to go in and help fund things that they see that's going to be done, instead of the government deciding where your money goes. How about if you decided? The
Amish sure get an awful lot of things right.
They sure do.
I think the same thing.
That's an inspiring thing to see when you see an Amish group work together. It's amazing. And they do it because they actually know each other. And think about how sad and alone people were. I talked to another gal, I'm going to have her on next week. Her daughter is just getting out of 7th grade and is been indoctrinated in the school system. She found wrappings where she was wrapping her chest because the school was giving her all sorts of things to modify as she's trying to decide to transition. She almost committed suicide 2 days ago and was lucky that she did not accomplish it. A mom is totally devastated. Christian mom, was a teacher, and the school system has destroyed her daughter. The daughter doesn't want to live because she thinks she's a man in a woman's body. She was wrapping her chest so tightly that there was blood on the wraps in the bathroom that her mom found. This is how crazy this transgender, I completely believe that, a lot of the stuff that's going on here is it is absolutely coming top down to centralize our society. First thing anybody could do is take your kids out of these indoctrination camps that they call schools. All they are is creating little brown shirts of obedience. And this may be a little difficult to do. I mean, I homeschooled. I know what it's like. I'm not just talking out of my rear end here. The reality is that parents are well equipped to homeschool their kids. You can do that. You realize that if you put less than 2 hours a day into your kids, you can surpass what the schools are teaching easily. And I mean, that's real learning. I mean, that's the truth. One of my kids literally was graduated from high school at 10 years old, tested out, started college at 12, and 4-pointed. I went to college with him because I knew there was going to be some, little avant-garde snowflake that was going to try to wreck my kid with their stupidity. So I went along with them because I wasn't going to just give my kids over to somebody I didn't know to raise and teach. And it comes down to that. I mean, we have to take responsibility for our own children, whether you leave them in a church or a gymnastics program to watch somebody like Larry Nassar, get in there and sexually abuse them. It's still, I mean, we can say all we want. Well, we should be able to trust these institutions. Well, you know what, guys? You can't. And you putting your kids in those positions, it's still your responsibility. But this one's going to be on next week, Thursday. The only way you can guarantee they're going to be safe is if you're standing there next to it and ready to beat the hell out of anybody that puts your kid at risk.
Do we know how they're doing this? The actual, technically, what are they doing to these kids?
Well, this is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and they're literally trying to make them change their minds, and it's the whole agenda. And you know what is really sad? And we were talking last night. They're flying an American flag so nobody will question it. And this mom said they have no idea that their kids are going to walk in there under an American flag and expect that this is something that they believe in. You're going to have to question this and come back to local. Don't aggregate all this stuff in our lives. Stay local and do what you can to bring your kids out of this captivity and your families. And if you know somebody that needs some help, jump in and help somebody locally. And if we can see the system, God, we don't have to destroy it. God's going to destroy it. He's going to destroy this horrible system that we're living under right now. I do believe that. And we're going to.
It's sickening. Parents that actually think that this is okay, and there's so many of them. They support their kids, support the schools.
I don't know how many of them there actually are. Though.
There's a lot around us.
The news tells us there's a lot of people that support this. I don't know how many there actually are out there.
Well, how many kids are in the schools? One is schools. Yeah, even if they're in these indoctrination camp schools that are pushing this transgender crap. I literally was on the phone with this woman last night, and she's devastated. She's like, I'm a Christian mom. And she said, I didn't know what was going on. And she said, I know what's going to happen this fall when the kids get back into school. She said, they're pushing this and it's not LGBT, it's this mutilation agenda where they're sterilizing kids. And I don't know if everybody realizes, do you realize that the satanic symbols and the different incarnations of Satan that they worship, Baal, Baphomet is a transgender god. That is exactly what it is. And it goes back to the Asherah, the worship of Asherah. Part of the Asherah worship was to mutilate genitals, and the priests would dance around with their knives after they hacked parts of people's bodies off. This is satanic. This is a satanic ritual.
How did they get the teachers and principals to buy in to do this? I mean,
because they went through their indoctrination camps that they call universities.
Yeah, a lot of if you look into the process of getting a teaching certificate, there is a lot of stuff that's basically social engineering stuff that they have to basically take an oath to do this social engineering to be able to get their teaching certificates.
Sounds kind of like how we get politicians.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look at the what is it? MAPS, minor attracted persons, and they're trying to push this kind of crap. I think we should just call it out for what it is. This is like sexual deviants that prey on children for their own weird gratification. This is so wrong.
They all need to be locked up. Everyone that participated in it.
I agree with you. You touch a kid, I think it's just like drug dealers. Drug dealers have to go through capital punishment for their crimes because they are murdering people. They know what they're doing. When you look at what's actually, people think of pedophilia as like a 16-year-old that looks like a 25-year-old that doesn't dress the way she should. I mean, and shame on the parents for letting these kids go out of the house dressed as little whores. What do you think is going to happen?
I love seeing when dads start dressing the same way.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Those are great. Just to show the absurdity of it and basically embarrass them into actually wearing something appropriate. I love seeing that.
It's hilarious. It puts it in the real perspective for the kids when they see their parents doing the things that they're doing as a wake-up call. But at the end of the day, I mean, parents have to say, they have to make those hard choices. And the younger they are, the better off they are to get these kids out of this indoctrination.
Well, and it's one thing though. I don't know. You see a dad with a big old beer belly wearing the same kind of stuff as his daughter.
The cheeky shorts with half their behinds hanging out. Are you kidding me?
And how embarrassed they get, that is a brilliant thing.
Yeah, I don't need to see anybody's behind, just so you know. I think it's fairly it's not cute. As much as you think your behind is cute, it ceased being that when your mother looked at you at 6 weeks old. Okay, that's just the way it is. All right, you might have been cute at 6 weeks old, but when you get older than that, it's not as cute as you might think it is, and most of us think it's disgusting. It's like I used to go to Hawaii years ago, and that's when the thong thing started coming out. And you'd go into places like this, and people would come into restaurants with a thong on, sitting with their bare behind on the chairs where you're looking at this going, that is snasty right there. That is so nasty. It's like, you may keep your body parts to yourself, and I will be just as happy. What's that?
That's me. I'm not a germaphobe, but I have limits when it comes to the toilet. The toilet and the splash zone are no-goes. If you sit on a toilet that somebody else sprinkled on and didn't wipe properly, and then you're going to go sit in a restaurant where I'm going to sit, no. That's nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty. Cover it up.
Yeah, that's like, there you go. I don't need to see people's body parts. I don't think any of us need to see body parts. And I feel really bad because, it's like this whole mutilation. I'm going to come back to this. It's a satanic ritual that they have sucked people into. And all you got to do is look at, you listen to people say, oh, you just got to study God to know what the counterfeit is, just like money. No. Study what's out there. Don't be afraid to look at it. Jesus talked more about hell than he did about heaven in the Bible. And, I kind of think that a really good dad or mom would point out what's wrong with this instead of saying, let's just keep looking at Gentile Jesus with a lamb on his foot here and sit in our churches without talking to people who are actually lost. Let's just put ourselves in a no-touch situation. I think we need to be out there talking and actually being the light in the world. And the light points out the things that are perhaps not so good. But, well, anyhow, I love you guys. I am so always thankful. You guys are my buddies, and I'm always so thankful for you guys. I mean, I on my last day, I hope to be standing with Ralph, Karen, and David. I can tell you that right now. I love you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So, guys, any last words here? I think David was dealing with a distraction out there, being the good dad he is. So, any last words here? And we're going to go to the J6ers and political prisoners. Let's call it out for what it is. Political prisoners in America, in your face. Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody else who walked away from them and didn't help them. And it just made talking points. So any last words, Ralph, David, Karen?
Buckle your seatbelts because something's going to happen. They're going to pull out everything they can. They'll pull out everything they can to make sure it's crystal clear. They're doing whatever they want. They don't even care anymore to make sure Trump doesn't get in. So we just have to be prepared.
And question everything, even question the questions.
Karen.
I think at the same time, you need to be not living in fear that something big, bad is going to happen, because I think we're going to be okay. We've talked about this many times. As a little aside and kind of funny, but I was thinking about it when Donna was talking about the school system. I was going to say, it sounds like you're talking about a conspiracy theory. Well, I've got these garden plots around my property, and I named them based on something about them. Well, I've got a new garden plot in which I got some really good deals recently, and I was trying to limit myself, and my companion with me, who is not my husband, worked to allow me the permission to purchase more than I was thinking I was going to purchase, which was a really good deal. So I did it. So I named that particular location with a bunch of new plants my conspiracy plot.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. I love that.
It's
All right.
fun.
All right, guys. We'll plan on seeing you guys back on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming on. All right, everybody. I'm going to go to a real quick break right now. And I will be right back on with Jalise Middleton, Russell Alford, and William Sarsfield. Hang on. This is going to be another great J6 documenting what's happened to our fellow Americans whom we love and will stand with unwavering. Remember, doesn't matter if you say anything in your mind. It's whether you're going to go the distance and stand with people who've had their rights violated as one American family. We'll be right back.
Great show.
Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 13th day of August 2024. And welcome to the third hour of our show. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm going to add my new guests on today, my friends, that we're going to continue to beat this whole situation up on J6. Thank you for being here, guys. This is awesome.
Thank you for having us, Donna. Good to see you again.
I gotta read something that I read in the first hour. So I got up this morning and I was like, oh man, one of those days where you get up and you're just like, when is this going to stop? And I know all of you have had that. And I grabbed this book, which I typically only read my Bible. I don't really read books, but I had this on the shelf from years ago. I don't even remember when I bought it. And it's a Max Lucado book. And the verse that is on this page, and I just opened it up. This is a May 13. I just opened it up to this, and it says, those people who keep their faith until the end will be saved. Matthew 10:22. And the encouragement is that, we really need to keep our faith, because our faith isn't in the acts of men or what we see or what we hear, but it's in God's leading us in the direction he wants us to go. And I really think that a lot of the J6ers that are out there probably don't even have a grasp on the fact that their pain and suffering that they've gone through is in the end is going to truly benefit so many people, to see them stand and not waver and continue to fight on like you have. So welcome.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I'm excited for these two guys. They truly have been some that have, paid it all. And, they're just American heroes. And I know that people cringe when they hear that. And I'm going to keep saying it until you know the truth. Because that is exactly what they are.
I got to tell you, with all the J6ers that I've talked to personally here, I don't really think that any of them look like hardened criminals, just so you know. I'm not sure that even though I don't believe the line, it's a threat to democracy, because it's not a democracy, it's a republic. That's an IQ test. That is a fail out there. It's not a democracy. It's not a threat to democracy. It's like, and there's nobody here that's a threat to anything. This is the failure of assessment at a base level from anybody that has a brain, and a conspiracy to harm Americans unlawfully in a Fedsurrection that they set up. Screw the FBI and the Capitol
Absolutely.
Police. And Yogolanda Pittman, who keeps popping up in other situations, which absolutely is going to be a real problem for her at some time when somebody gets in office and says and unleashes the pit bulls to go after these people. So anyhow, what's happening today?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, what's plotted in darkness, God's going to bring to light. And, you know, so they might be getting away with it at the moment, but I can assure you it's going to be short-lived. So
and when that hammer drops, it's going to be wham.
Something like a gnat.
Yeah, I wear cowboy boots. Remember that.
Nobody's felt the Thor hammer before.
So, gentlemen, can you introduce yourselves to us? And I'd like to go, how did we do this yesterday, Jalise? It was talking about what brought you to this situation and then your story. So how did you get to J6 and what was your life like before that?
Russell, go ahead.
Okay. My name's Russell Alford. I live in Alabama. I'm just a baby boomer, I guess they call us.
Is there a dog somewhere?
No.
I'm hearing a rustling too. I don't know what it is.
It sounds like a dog growling.
Is that better?
Nope.
It might be William.
Maybe
there it went.
There it went.
Okay.
Oh, something in the background at Williams. Okay, go ahead, Russell.
Okay. Well, I'm 63 now. I came back in 2006 from Orlando, Florida to take care of my mother. She was 82 years old. I took care of her for 10 years. Watched the whole political thing play out. She loved Donald Trump. It doesn't really matter to me as long as they do the right thing. I don't care what their name is. But I lost her in 17 and after 10 years. And anyway, I went to the Trump rally on the 6th because I felt like the election was stolen, and I still feel like the election was stolen, and it's in my transcript in the court documents. That's the way I felt.
Hey, I got to jump in real quick. Isn't it interesting that was relevant? You're being on trial supposedly for your actions that, of course, they made up the story to. But why did they ask you if you believe that the election was stolen? Because they did that to me too.
Well, my judge was Chutkin, so if that tells you anything, just know it going in. With the thing that really is kind of different for me is I look at I had a public defender, and they did a heck of a job, and they know the truth, and they filed enough keystones in the case for the appeal that I have, and they're paid by the same people that are trying to force me into prison. They're trying to keep me out, and there's my law guys did a hell of a job, and in any other court in the country, I would have been released. I'm in there on misdemeanors. I watched the whole thing. It was a Broadway play. Anyway, I decided to go up there because I'd never been to a Trump rally. I'd never been to DC, and they made it sound like we were coming to take the country back. They did it all. It was a big Broadway play. I watched it. I videotaped it. There's a documentary that was made by the public television in Belgium that I recorded not long after I was charged, and it's on my YouTube channel, but it's buried where nobody can find it. And the whole thing was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. They stole the election, and they've done all this to keep from giving it back to him. And they're not going to give it back to him. I don't think we can vote our way out of this deal. I'm hoping we can. I'm hoping, but I mean, they're shooting at him. So what are they willing not to do? These people, I served a year in prison. I turned 62 or 63 in prison, and never thought I'd be there. That's for sure. I was semi-retired. I own a body shop. I've been doing it all my life. I've been in a, you know, my dad was in the military 21 years. I didn't do anything to deserve anything that I received, is all I can tell you. And the only reason I didn't sign anything is because that's the way my mom raised me. I'm not going to sign anything that I didn't do, even though it was all misdemeanors. But I got every bit of what they could give me. Well, they could have given me more, I guess, but they made it concurrently. So, but I had to do a full year, and it was a medium penitentiary. It wasn't a camp like I was promised. As soon as I got in there, the BOP put a what do you call it, a thing on my sentence that I couldn't go to a camp. It made me the greatest severity part of it, and so I had to sit it out in there for a full year. And I'm lucky. If I had to do any longer than that, I probably wouldn't have made it out, because I've still got a stomach issue. It was just ridiculous. I've got a bunch of stuff that eventually we'll see a lawyer that'll take care of this, but I don't think it's going to matter. The Lord's coming back, so we're going to ride it out and see where we go with this. You know,
what's the stomach issue? If you don't mind me asking, what happened that you have a stomach issue from this?
The stuff they were giving us to eat. I have some kind of a bacterial infection, and I couldn't get any doctor's care. And I put in orders to let me go see the doctor, and put it this way, they're just like anything else in the government right now, is they're not doing anything. They're just collecting their checks and playing along.
Well, they're intentionally killing people and then using plausible deniability to take responsibility for the fact that they are abusing political prisoners on American soil.
Yes. And I worked in the kitchen. I've got proof. I've got a couple of different things that they didn't have water in the kitchen for over a month at Yazoo City, Mississippi.
What do you do without water in a kitchen?
You make people sick.
Mm-hmm.
So they were not washing anything.
It was getting washed with a chemical.
Then not rinsing the chemical.
Correct.
Wow.
And there was a bunch of food that was expired that, you know, was donated. So they're basically funneling the money for the food for the prisons into their pockets and getting donated food, and that's what they're feeding the people. And you know, like I said, the only thing that saved me is, believe it or not, I traded stamps for antibiotics inside a prison to take care of the infection I had, and it got me out the door.
Are you kidding me?
No, I wouldn't kid you.
Do you have the names? And I'm saying that like rhetorically. Do you have the names of all these people in that prison that were treating you like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh man, hang on to that list or pass it on to those of us who will publish.
I've got about 30 or 40 pages. I spent a lot of time in the law library while I was there. I'm not well educated. I put it this way. I heard you guys talking about the school before I got on, and I'm not well educated, but I quit school in 10th grade. My grandmother was an English teacher. I knew more in 6th grade than most people know out of college nowadays.
Well, then you are well educated, because my husband never graduated from high school because he was sick of it. He was smart enough to walk away from it before he graduated. And you know what? He's probably one of the most educated people I know, because he reads incessantly, and he's self-educated, which is actually really real education. It's homeschool education. I love it. So
I agree with you on that. It's, you know, when you, and I'm not bashing school, don't take me wrong, but you know, you stay there and they conform your brain to think the way they want it to think, and you lose your creativity, you lose part of your brain. And then you can't regain it. All you can do is be told what to think. And here we are today.
You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and bash school if you won't bash it. The whole public education system is a disgrace. And the MEA, NEA should be completely abolished for what they've done. And getting rid of the trades. They've gotten rid of the trades. They've gotten rid of, you know, anything that has an education that helps our students actually take care of themselves. But I can tell you what, they can sit in a coffee shop as little snowflakes and sit in their little protected area, you know, their safe zones and crap. So, but I digress.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely gone a little bit far.
Wackadoodle, totally wackadoodle. So,
well, it's gone to manipulation instead of education.
Well,
yes.
it's the baby boomers' fault. We all had to go to work because everybody had to keep up with the Joneses and buy the big house and 2 people to make payments, and you couldn't raise your own kids. And they started handing them forms of computers, and then it was all downhill from there. And we let all the political science majors become teachers, and here we are right here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. You know, we all bought into the lie that the American dream is the biggest house with the nicest car and
Correct.
2.5 kids and the whole 9 yards. And the reality of it is, you know, me and my husband defied that. I would hear everybody saying, you know, I can't afford to stay at home. You know, it takes 2 incomes. No, it takes you sacrificing, which is what parenthood's all about anyway. And that's a hard pill to swallow. I'm not bashing you for not. It was a hard path. I definitely took the harder road. But on the same token, I sure am glad I did now.
Right. Well, it's in my family. I've seen it in my family. I've got about 12 nieces, and some of them need a helmet. I mean, they're just out of control.
That's like the greatest line for the day. Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
So William, that was beautiful. So William, tell us your story, please. How did you get there, and what happened to you?
Well, my trip there was led between a curiosity of seeing the East Coast, DC. I do stonework for a living, have been for the last 30 years. And I've done a lot of commercial buildings, a lot of custom homes and stuff, and little knickknacks around the house and the lake area. And when my wife started getting sick, we decided to take a last little vacation before she got onto dialysis. So when Trump got on the news and said, hey, if you can make it to the White House in your backyard, please come visit. So we were like, I've got friends in the East Coast that my wife and I have known for 20 years that we've never met, just over the phone talking to. And we're like, why not take the vacation to go visit the family and friends, go see some beautiful architecture on the same time, and go tell Trump thank you. You know, if nothing else, tell him thank you for the job that he has done for a president in our country, and that we support him all the way around. And that was basically it, kind of like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. So we're sitting there at the rally, and it was a phenomenal sight to see that many people in the backyard of the White House celebrating one individual. We're all there for one guy. Nobody else. We're there for Trump. He's the one that was standing up for us, and we were all showing camaraderie and joining together as one to show him support. And there had to be at least 2 million people. I don't care what the news says or what anybody else looks at it. You go look at the photos and do a head count. I've been to concerts and a lot of big concerts before, and there's hundreds of thousands of people, and that topped that tenfold, maybe 20.
I agree with you. They've lied about that from day one. Yep.
Yes, I heard 3 million is what I heard.
From where I was standing at the monument, I could see nothing but the big stages and the big screens, and people packed shoulder to shoulder. There was no arguing. There was no fighting. There was no turmoil. Nope. There was nothing. It was praise and hallelujah. And yes, that's right. We see it too. We're with you 100%. So after the rally,
try to navigate through the crowd.
It was the best tailgate party. It was the best tailgate party I've ever been to.
Yes.
Most definitely. I'm blessed and honored to be there. That's the only thing I can say as an individual from the United States of America living in this beautiful state of Texas, that I am honored to represent where I live and the individuals around me, because I've had nothing but grace and love and support, and everybody around me knows it's a bunch of BS. Everybody around me knows that they can't do anything because it's a overstep of everybody. and everybody's scared. Everybody wants that fear tactic, and they're like, I don't want to even put my name on it.
Yep.
So they've literally scared everybody.
You know,
And this is,
that's a good point, William, because even with American Patriot Relief, when we've been all over the nation speaking, I would have people scared to come up to the table that would pull me to the side on the way to the restroom or talking to someone and say, I want to help you, but I'm scared to put my name on anything. Is there a way I can help you? And I'm going, these people are dying. These people are giving up their life. That we have suicides going on. We have homes getting foreclosed on. And you're going to claim that you're a Christian and walk in fear?
and it started way before J6. It started with the COVID mask. It started with the mandates. It's the lockdowns. So we're all there for Trump stating that he's not the one that locked anybody down. He left it to the states. He didn't go out there as a dictator or anybody else and say, this is my rhetoric, shut everything. He left it to the individual governors, and they did what they saw fit. And now we are where we're at. And those that prevailed and listened to their gut and the good Lord are who we are. And I'm not bashing anybody else for doing what they thought was right for their community. I want to make sure I'm right for mine of my own. And I can't do that now. So as we went to the rally was ending, and we came to the car and we sat down because it was cold. It was 3 degrees outside. It was January in DC. Come on, if nobody's been there, you ought to go just experience the weather. It's kind of cool.
You
guys are from the South, like all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm from Michigan, so yeah, we get it up here. You got to be a little crazy.
I'm originally from Washington State, from Yakima Valley, so I kind of know what the extreme weathers are from that point of view. It wasn't really. I could have ran around in shorts and a leather jacket, and I would have been fine. Sweat. That's what everybody else is dressed up in, 3 layers of parka and underclothes and pajamas, electric jackets, and I'm like, these guys. Wish I had that kind of money. Put a DeWalt battery in my pocket and be warm for days. But anyways, we went back to the car and we sat there and we were listening to the radio, and all of a sudden the emergency came across that the Capitol was breached and broken into. And we're like, what? That no way. So I drove up there from Texas with my wife and a friend of ours, and I told them to please stay in the car. I'm going to walk up. We were parked by the monument, and I walked up the mall by myself. I didn't know anybody. I just decided the good Lord said, you need to go walk up here and be a witness and see and make sure everybody's okay if you can. And that's what I do from my own heart. I'm the kind of guy that walks into a fire. If somebody says there's somebody left in there, go get that guy, get the person out, and then put the fire out. Don't try to find a phone and call 911 or record it or anything like that. Go, just do it. So I walked up the mall, and the closer I got to the mall, the more extreme I saw of people leaving the mall. The closer I got, I saw children and parents that were walking away that had covered in mace and OC spray and shot with rubber bullets and bruises on the cheeks. And I'm like, is this coming from the police or coming from the crowd? Because, we all hear about bad protesters in action, and we never really get to see it except for on TV. So I started walking further and closer, farther from my wife and my car, closer to the screams and the cries, passing officers that were on horseback. There was hundreds of officers walking around in the crowd. Not one said anything about stay away from the Capitol. The Capitol's a riot zone. This was like at 2:45, 2:50 in the afternoon. These were well after the barricades have been breached. There's people all over the backside of the Capitol. The tunnel has been retreated in by the officers for an hour, I want to say, maybe a little bit less. And I was walking by at that time, the closer I got, there was thousands of people walking towards the Capitol. Coming up the road from where the rally was, they were coming from all directions into the Capitol, and hundreds of thousands of people. And there was just flows of traffic that people were walking, and you either were in a flow of traffic or you weren't. So that was, people were congregating on the side, praying and singing and chanting, and this is our house. And, you know, it was a very, very calm area and peace when I was there until I got closer to the tunnel. And when I got up to the tunnel, I could hear the screams of everybody inside of it. And me being me, I got up there to find out what was going on and got wrapped up into the West Tunnel section, where the FBI has called me a heave hoer. And now the DOJ has got 6 felony charges against me for being a heave hoer, and telling me that I should have never been at the Capitol. I had a public defender that was not very good. She had written documentaries against J6ers and defending J6ers at the same time. And I was the only one that challenged her to take her to court, or take our case to court. And she told me that I was the only one, the first one out of 29 or so defendants that she's had for January 6th. She's convinced everybody else to sign the plea and successfully take the plea. And I says, I can't do that. I don't understand the plea at first when I first read it. And then I asked her to explain it to me, and she said, just sign the plea, William. Just sign the plea and bring it back, and we'll go over.
That's coercion. I mean, that's coercion, and it actually should be considered witness tampering. You know, it really should, because they're changing. I mean, think about that. Think about that. If that's considered witness tampering, because it should be, if they're coercing a admission of anything out of someone.
She was making a lot of the defendants do book reports and reading different kinds of books, like the broken knee. Wounded, a broken knee. There wanted to be a reform so that she could say that they're now re-educated to the judge and have a less sentence.
Who is the judge? So we can add her to the list.
That was the public defender, and that was Heather Shaner.
Heather Shaner. Wow, you just got added to the list of traitors.
Yes, and she's not a very good gal by any means. And the documentary that she has out, I can't remember exact name of it.
Sounds like a little snowflake. I bet she sits there in her little safe zone coffee shops.
Oh, she's from DC, definitely. A little short gal with blue hair, 60, 70 years old. And she's like got convicted murderers off and everything. And she told me her exact words were, no matter what happened in the tunnel, William, you're guilty. You could save 250 babies after the tunnel and you're still guilty. I says, well,
I got to share something real quick, guys. Hold on. So I Googled her name, and the first thing that popped up was out of the Washington Post headline: lawyer Heather Shaner called a traitor after giving Capitol riot clients. So, I mean, right off the bat, even her own liberal commentaries are hitting.
Oh yeah, DC attorney. Let's see if we can find a picture of her so everybody can see what kind of people we're dealing with here. Okay, let's see. Let's look at Heather Shaner.
And you know the thing is,
which one is she? Which one is she here? Point her out to me. Right here.
Little blue-haired streak in the hair, little old gal.
Little gal.
The one on the
far end.
On the far end of the top row.
Right
there.
Okay,
this is Heather Shaner. Shaner. Okay. We want to know who we're talking about. Just to be factual, because we're factual on Brandenburg News Network.
Yes.
And we're talking about here Heather Shaner. That looks like Heather Shaner. The hell, she got a moo on or something like that.
And at the time, she was trying to get me to portray myself as a country guy that was from Texas, East Texas, that just didn't know very much, was poorly educated, and I just shouldn't have been there. She wanted me to send her pictures of my guitar, my truck, and me playing country music so she could portray me and, humanize me.
Hey, check
And
this out. So Heather Shaner is looking like she's trying to dress kind of all sorts of military there. And then we go from moo to military. I can say we got a quality individual happening there.
You know,
oh my
but
gosh.
the story isn't uncommon. That's what I need to jump in and say.
Mhm.
I hear these story after story after story. And then I bet you I can even tell you, if it hadn't happened to William yet, what's fixing to happen. Because that's what it was for me and Mark. You don't take the plea bargain, and you talk about tampering. You don't take a plea bargain, they throw another felony on you. That's how me and Mark ended up with 4 felonies.
They threatened me with a felony.
So it was like, so they threatened with adding more charges if you don't sign the plea bargain.
Yep.
Exactly.
They told me that I'm wasting the court's time by taking it to trial, so they'll have enhancement charges at the end of the court.
Exactly.
Oh my
I had
God.
a major argument with my public defender's office in Birmingham. I met with them about 4 or 5 times, and they kept trying to talk me into signing a plea agreement. And I wouldn't sign it. I said, I can read. And I said, every word in those charges, I'm not guilty of. I can't sign a plea agreement of something I'm not guilty of, you know?
Right.
So
let me explain why to the viewers why this is such a big deal. You talk about honor. Now, I'm not beating up on anyone that takes a plea deal, because this truly is fighting a losing battle as far as the government goes. They win 99%.
99. Yep.
99.
They win 99%. So you're going in defeated.
Do you know why that is? Do you know why that is?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody in DC is a victim. We're going up against the jurors of victims. So how can we have
what I uncovered in the state of Michigan is we actually have something called a civil action jurisdiction here. And so the prosecutors are only prosecuting things they can get money judgments out of in one way or another. And they take a percentage of that goes into the retirement fund.
Oh, nice.
And so every single, judgment that has, either goes into a direction, because they're taking orders from somebody, right? And so they're getting money judgments or help that are going into the retirement account or their accounts for benefits. So it's a direct, so that's why you get such a high, I think it's in Michigan, it's 98% of all cases are a money judgment that goes to their retirement account. So they don't prosecute, they don't defend, they don't do anything unless it benefits them.
And let me add, there's a special issue going on with the January 6th defendants. If a public defender actually works at trying to defend that January 6th defendant, if they actually work, they start going after their bar license.
Oh, sure they do.
And you got to remember that these public defenders and the attorneys are a servant of the court. They're not your servant. They're a servant of the court, working on behalf of the court.
Yes.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
And just so they don't know, because I can say that these attorneys aren't particularly smart, is that they don't have a license to practice law. It is a private membership club. The bar is a private membership club. It is not a license to practice bar. So they've got a cartel going on to practice their industry. Has nothing to do with truth or justice or doing the right thing. And once again, that whole thing needs to be abolished because of the fact that it is unconstitutional, immoral, and they've done some horrible crimes under the guise of being there to be helper public defenders. There's no such thing.
Well, it's not even just the public defenders, it's the judges as well. Like my judge, Reggie Walton, he is already like on another J6 defendants of Daniel Goodwin, I believe, and trying to infringe on his free speech and or getting online in his computer and technology.
And refused the appellate court judgment that said it was unconstitutional.
My judge, Judge Reggie Walton, as the same one and only one that has made disparaging comments on CNN about Donald Trump being,
or Chuckin, that blatantly made a public statement saying that every January 6th defendant is guilty and deserves prison, said something to that effect.
Look how
So
you make a statement like that without due process and assuming everyone is guilty. Why didn't they call these 6'5" super soldiers that were provoking the crowd out? Why did they all get a pass? And why is Yogananda Pittman still walking the streets out there?
With the promotion.
Ivan Raiklin is a genius, and he's right. If Elon Musk released all of the direct messages and we subpoenaed and got all the direct messages from the Capitol Police, the text messages, all of these, they were in communication.
Yeah.
They
were.
More than I was. I couldn't get a hold of my wife until I got at least 200, 300 feet away from the Capitol. My phone didn't start working until I got away from the Capitol.
What I didn't understand is they've got a public address system all the way around that building, and they never got on that thing at all and told people to back away from the building.
Never.
And it was tested that morning. So it has a system, a sound system that goes out for over a month.
Right. You can hear it. Yep.
They test it every morning. It tested properly, but yet, do you know the warning system that they used to tell the January 6th protesters to leave the area was a boom box? I've got it in my video of my body cams. It's a little boom box about this big that sat by the wall of the Capitol. So when the police were gathered by the wall, like recovering or whatever, you could hear it. But as they moved into the crowd on that police line, you couldn't hear it anymore. And yet we're all charged with you were fairly warned to leave the area.
Yeah, that's one of those stupid plausible deniability. Well, we did it, so we did what we're supposed to do. No, you're right.
They made it illegal that day. They made it illegal that day to be where we were at.
That's right. And on that sound system, just as an added note, it even specifies the decibels that has to be used to qualify as a fair warning. And
from the back of the crowd.
So why hasn't somebody done like a pro se lawsuit against every single one of these people that
they bankrupt us?
What's
We're
that?
all bankrupted.
Yeah, they're using our money. They're using our money.
The first thing they do is dox us all over the nation with our name, all our information in the national news that we're terrorists. We all get fired. We can't get a job again because when they do a search on us, the first thing that pulls up is Google talking about us being cop beaters and insurrectionists. So we can't work.
You should have seen the way they treated me going through the airport.
Oh, yeah, I was there too.
What they do?
Get a special touch because it's not gay if it's a TSA.
Hey.
Right. I actually had somebody karate chop me in between my legs going through an airport. Because I literally had them go right up the crotch and they karate chopped me going through a TSA.
Yes.
So, yeah, they will do stuff like that.
Directly under the breast, directly down the butt crack, around the waistband, in your crotch. And for me and Mark, because we have the 4 S's, which is basically where the highest level of domestic terrorists and still be able to fly.
They searched me 3 times on the way through the airport.
And they do it publicly for everyone to look at. Yeah.
Right. They had 8 TSA agents standing there watching them do it to me. And then they had 3 air marshals get on the plane with me.
Yes. Me and Mark did too. I laughed.
They all weighed about 150 pounds apiece.
We come in from New York one time. I got to tell a quick story. And me and Mark get on the plane. So now you got 2 J6ers. Ryan Zink is a J6er out of Texas. Right. He showed up to get on the plane. They had 12 TSA agents and a search dog waiting on us to get into the line. Even announced ahead of time, if you anticipate problems boarding the airline, please report to the gate now. And we knew they were saying, Middleton, Zink, get up here so we can search.
Yeah, they came and found me.
You know what? They can look at it as trying to humiliate people, but they're humiliating themselves.
They look like idiots. And
they do look like idiots. And everybody knows that. They all look at them, and people aren't afraid of them. They look at them and they're laughing at them. They're laughing at them. They're disgusted with them. and they are laughing. People know what's going on. They're not pulling the role. They can sit there and play cop. They can sit there and play good cop. They're not. They're playing a role, and everybody sees through their little fake game that they're playing.
And Sonia Basco is the TSA whistleblower. And I've spoken with her. We've had some time together. One of the things she pointed out is that they were called off of all their other duties to babysit J6ers. And so that means babies are going through airport with parents that aren't theirs. It means all this other stuff is occurring while they babysit the J6ers on airplanes.
Yeah, let's just fail entirely on assessing a threat, or maybe they're all involved in it and they're part of this child trafficking.
They are all part of it.
I wonder. We should ask that question, right? Or maybe we already know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Everybody's involved. It's all the way back to the county level.
Don't waste the question. Don't waste the question. We already know the answers.
Yes.
Let's find the questions that we need to find and ask, because those are the ones that are important.
Well,
like, how can independent states stop the J6 trials? How do we get together and get our communities and our representatives to work for us? We got to work for solutions. Now we know the problem.
And I want the American public to really look at these people that we're bringing into the show. You can see these two guys are teddy bears. They were never with an intent to harm anybody. They're family people. I mean, he uprooted to take care of his grandmother, for crying out loud. I did that too. Your mother, yes. And I did that for my father, and I know the sacrifice that took, that you left your world behind for their world. And, all of us are left picking up pieces. So that's the message I want people to know about. I want them to understand that regardless of anything you hear of, the few that might have done something that sounds shady, look at the whole picture, because what you'll see are people that got attacked by the police. And then when they responded on behalf of the welfare of others or themselves, then they were, charged with all these heinous crimes.
Jalise, my sheriff's department in my town during the 2020 Summer of Love actually deputized me to go to some of the stuff that was going on around some of the Civil War statues and all that. And I did 5 or 6 times, and we just stood around and peacefully observed and just were a body there, because they didn't know if they were going to get out of hand or not. And I did the same thing in DC as I did in my county, and I was arrested up there, and I was, sought after down in my county for security, basically, I guess it would be. We weren't armed or nothing. It was just, it was just a group of people. But it's just ridiculous that the people that are all the way to the county level that are still going along with it. If there's federal funds involved, half the city is involved. I don't care what level we're at. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people that are witnessing it that won't come forward, okay, because they have to pay their mortgage and feed their kids.
Hey, so let's go to another whole level on this. How about what people can do in their individual capacity? We've looked at the website that you had out there, American Patriot Relief, and how many people need to be adopted. Where are those Americans that have guts and heart and the ability to stand, giving people jobs, regardless of what is being said? Tell me where these people are that are giving jobs. And can you give a J6er a job? Do you have the guts to give them a job and to help them out in your local area?
Right.
That's a beautiful point, because in Texas, for some reason we seem to be and it might be because I'm here, but it seems like we've got a little bit tighter network to help one another out as J6ers. We've got several J6ers in Texas that are, owners of companies that offer jobs to them. I live on a farm. I've offered my home and, our land to J6ers to try to keep them housed and employed. And that's the biggest thing, house, employment, and a car. And, that's grab your state, take the bull by the horns and say, every J6er that comes out needs to get in contact with me. I am going to actively work to employ you with my patriot friends that own businesses and companies. If I have to get you, $1,000 car that has to have oil added and every 5 miles, so be it. But get them on their feet so that they can get on their feet. And that's a really good point, because some of them have lost everything while in prison. And we will be talking to some of those late in the week. They lost everything, and therefore they were homeless. So when they get out on probation, they don't have a house to go to. So therefore the DC court takes them over, doesn't allow them to leave DC. And now they're 98% liberal area that has highly rejected them. They won't employ them, won't allow them to rent their apartments. And they're stuck in DC while their wife is living with whoever, trying to stay afloat and can't afford to get back to him, leaving the wife and kids behind.
Do you have lists broken out by each state of who is in each state? Do you have that, Jalise?
Yes, as a matter of fact, they can go to the government website. They do a great job at listing them out. So if they go to, if they Google Capitol breach, it'll pull up a website called justice.gov, and it'll open them up to the spreadsheet, and they can do a search.
You broke up.
Do what?
You broke up again. You broke up. Try that again. Go to what?
They can go do a Google search of Capitol breach, which will pull up the government website, justice.gov, and they can do a search by their state. Another way they can do that is to go to patriotmailproject.com, and they can search them by state there also, their home state. And it will pull up every J6er in your state where their home state is. And that's a fantastic opportunity, because you can also write them there. And so, yes, if you scroll down on the government website there, that is a searchable spreadsheet. And right there at the top, just a little bit lower, you can go in and actually pull the data by the location of the arrest. And like I say, patriotmailproject.com also has a searchable spreadsheet where it gives you a picture of them too, and tells a little about them, which I love, because it tells you whether they were military veterans. The American people need to know that at an uncanny rate, they actually have incarcerated the military that were there. So our population carries 7% veterans. However, in the arrest records, they're running between 17 to 20% military veterans that they incarcerate.
I was born on a military base.
Wow, that might be part of why we're so aggressive toward you.
But I was going to tell you, you're talking about the jobs and everything else. Well, I'm an independent. I have a body shop. I've been doing it for all my whole life. I worked for dealerships, Mercedes, Ford, Chrysler.
Keep dropping out William here. Let's get you back.
Oh, I was able to hear him real well. There we go.
Okay, well, what I was going to, and anyway, I worked at all the dealerships and stuff, and I've done a bunch of different projects. I've actually done some movies, and I would hire people, except for the fact that where I live now, there's nobody around me, for one, and it cost me. They almost ruined me anyway. It cost me $20,000 to go to prison. I had $10,000 in the bank, which paid all my bills while I was gone. Thank God my nephew was around to where he could do that for me. And then when I got out, the American Patriot Relief Fund helped me a couple of times, and it got me to where I could get my shop back open and do a little bit of a remodel. And when I first got out to the halfway house, they wouldn't even let me work for myself. I had to go get a job at another shop, and then I had to go put full insurance back on my car that I was carrying liability on, and make sure all that was right. I mean, they just make it hard on you. Like I said, it cost me about $20,000 to go do a year in prison and come back to my empty shop and my empty house and start over, basically. And it
Their goal is to absolutely annihilate.
Right. and I started in February. I got out February 4th, and I've just now starting to roll again, but I'm still working on stuff that I've got a good clientele. I've had people that I've worked for my whole life, so they keep bringing me stuff, and I'm still working on that to get out the other end of people that actually waited for me to get out. You know, and I mean, I would love, but I'm 63 years old, and I can't go 12 hours a day like I did. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. I mean, I would like to help. So I would love to teach somebody what I know before it goes into.
It's flaking. It's getting flaky.
I see we keep losing William.
Yeah, well, I would, like I said, I would love to teach
somebody. A little bit.
You good? But anyway, Donna,
it got flaky when I pulled up the website.
Oh, Donna. Of course, when you pulled up the government website, right?
Yeah, I pulled the government website up and it got flaky. So just hang on a second. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And what we'll do is I'll put it in my Telegram channel, because you know what the great thing is that they can keep trying to screw with us, but it doesn't matter. We're going to keep going. And every time they do something stupid, it's just going to become a little bit more painful, because some of us are not going to give up. And, you know, you try to put a bullet in our head. And you know what the great thing is that we got our Father in heaven, that does not like his children messed with. And he gives us a little extra help and protection. And those that violate that have a big problem coming. They're just smug enough not to know how big of a problem they've created for themselves. Now look I took it down, and now there's no flakiness.
Right? Yeah. To live is Christ and to die is gain. No. That's the thing, is they cannot do anything to us that does not benefit us. And, you know, I really pray that the community of listeners walk away from this inspired and empowered, that they have nothing to fear. In fact, fear, I love the song Fear is a Liar, because the fear is training you and conditioning you to walk away from God. Yeah. I want to point something out. People call it a spirit of fear, and that is the most accurate statement you can make. It's a spirit. It's a demonic spirit, and you have to cast it, because it works opposite of our faith in Christ. So anyway, William, where are you at?
I'm over here in East Texas, Cedar Creek Lake area.
How's your life now? Are you getting rebuilt, or where are you at in your sentencing trial?
It is, since I've gotten rid of the public defender, Heather Shaner, they gave me the new court appointed lawyer. And we've had our first little status meeting, and now we have October set for trial. And we're just kind of going from there. I'm trying to find ways to find out if he's going to help me, or if he's going to be somebody I need to just keep shining the light on the nefarious actors of the lights going through, you know.
And
I think have you talked to Troy Smocks. Troy Smocks has got like a $265 million lawsuit against the federal government for kidnapping. You might want to call Troy and get some information on that and bring the hammer down on him.
Yeah, he's got a writ of habeas corpus going.
Yeah, he was also there in a capacity as a journalist too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I was just there as an individual patron by myself, not knowing anybody at the Capitol. My wife and my friend were in the car back in the parking lot by the monument. So, I mean, I've had the judge sever my case from all the other defendants, which haven't happened before. So I'm also one of the individuals that helped Officer Fanone to his feet and help him back up to the tunnel. And I helped another officer, Officer Morris Moore, which got pulled out of the tunnel at the same time. I helped him all the way down to an aid ambulance and took a selfie with him. So I have a timestamp photo of when I was off the premises of the Capitol. And it's like at 3:45, I was over on Pennsylvania Avenue, or that area, with the officer that I helped. So when we all got that emergency broadcast alert about 6 o'clock curfew, if you're not from DC, at 6 o'clock, you need to leave the area. I mean, I can see myself getting investigated and asked questions, but I don't understand why I got arrested because I was nowhere close to the Capitol at 6 o'clock.
Absolutely. And you were helping police with pictures.
Yeah, they don't.
But see,
And
the
video in my
officers lie on
discovery.
the stand.
Well, the one officer, they have a Officer Moore. He gave a statement to the FBI that he was helped by 2 individuals all the way out to an ambulance where he got aid, and then he returned back into the Capitol. So I have testimony of his, and he's willing to testify on my behalf. My public defender, Heather Shaner, told me not to talk to Fanone because he'll demolish me. And I said, well, I'd like to have him in my court. I'd like to ask him if he remembered me grabbing his hand, and he told me that he had kids, and I helped him to his feet while everybody else was cradling his head and wiping his tears.
Well, he
and
lied
I grabbed
on the
his
stand during the Proud Boy trial. So and got caught doing it, but of course no charges brought against him. So I would assume he would not be honest on the stand for your behalf.
Well, how about just the tattoos that he has on his hands now?
Yeah.
I'll take their money, but they're not gonna list. They don't have me. He's got new tattoos on the outside of his hands after the January 6th.
Right.
After he's got the book deal. I mean, he's a sellout. He's not a patriot. If he really gave a crap about people in Congress, he'd still be a Capitol Police officer.
Well, look at the book. The book deals are usually my first. I think
most definitely.
How you can publish books.
Are we talking about Fanone?
Yeah, your buddy.
Yeah. Well, he's in my Belgium documentary also. And the name of the name of it was The Big Lie, but it's whatever language they speak in Belgium, but it's The Big Lie. And he does an interview with the guy. His name is DeGrave, Thomas DeGrave is the one that is the creator. But anyway, yeah, that whole thing is he makes me sick.
He does. I was offended when he got on national television on January 6th after everything calmed down, and he says, "Thank you guys for saving me, but F you for being at the Capitol."
Yeah, well, he says something like that in most of the interviews he does. He comes to that point in most of the interviews if you've watched a bunch of it, and I've seen the same thing in our deal. But
and I kind of take offense to. I'm the guy that grabbed his hand, pulled him up through the crowd to his feet, and a group of patrons protected him and helped him to the stairs.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they started all that. It was a peaceful gathering until all of a sudden, when they didn't have the quorum on the floor and they knew they were going to have to send the votes back, it was like somebody hit the button, and then they attacked the crowd. And it started headed the other way. The cops all ran one way to get away to let everybody in. And who knows? I've seen more people with earphones in and people undercover. I know who feds are. I know what they look like. You know what I'm saying? And there was everything was over the top. You know what I'm saying?
That was mentioned yesterday in our interviews also, was that when they saw that they were going to throw back those electoral votes,
right.
They call that.
Right. Well, that's when the action started at the Capitol. I basically left after that. I was only inside the Capitol 11 minutes. I filmed, stood in the corner, never was asked to leave until I was. And when I was asked to leave, I turned around and walked out. I was about 15 feet inside the back door and behind the representative side of the Capitol. And
I never went into the Capitol. I went to the west tunnel, got to the entrance of the tunnel. But I never went through doorways. I never went through a window, never broke anything.
Yeah. It was all broken open when we went by, and I stepped inside and basically peacefully observed and videotaped it. And when I went back to my hotel that evening, I seen that they were going back in the Capitol to finish off their crime. And when they went and voted and went ahead and made him the president or supposed president, that's when I hung all my stuff on Facebook, all the video I had from the day. And then that's when the FBI showed up a couple of days later at my shop asking me what was going on, and they took them 3 months to charge me because, I told them, I said, I didn't do nothing wrong. I didn't hurt nobody. I didn't touch nobody. I didn't scratch the floor. I didn't do anything. I walked in an open door, you know, and there's videotape everywhere. I can't believe, you know, they had no problem finding the videotape of me in there, but they have videotape of all kinds of problems. If you work for the government, you know, they're just creating their own jobs. Most of those people, if they didn't have a job with the government, a lot of them wouldn't have a job.
They can't do anything.
Right.
You know, I call them the parasite class.
Yeah.
Because they live off of, I mean, they're professional parasites. They can't do anything. They produce nothing. And all they do is live off a host. That's parasite. And that's the majority of our government right now is they're parasites.
And it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the whole thing is like I said, I don't think we could vote our way out of this deal. They stole one election and nobody's got arrested, nobody's hung, nobody's done nothing. It's the same people still there. And here we go again. Okay.
Treason.
Yep. I agree.
The midterm election was stolen. I mean, look at what we're coming out of Georgia now with. I mean, come on, people. I mean, I seen that when they started covering pizza boxes on the windows. It was my first indication that they were stealing the election.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I mean, how much plainer can we make it?
Well, just so you know, I ran for governor in Michigan in 2022, and I have the distinction of being kicked off of 2 political parties in a single election cycle and still getting on the election or still getting on the ballot.
Well, I'll trade you my year in the pen.
No, I wouldn't trade you that at all. I'm just saying that if you want to look at how much rigging they did, even at the midterm election, it was all rigged. And I've been preaching. Read my original statement to the FBI when they showed up at my shop. Read my original statement, and then read the transcript. I took the stand. I was on the stand on my 62nd birthday there with Chutkin. And her transcript is just outrageous. The things she says. What was in, paraphrase it for us.
Basically, she called me a liar. Okay. And I'm the only one that knows the truth. They came up with a whole different, idea because of some other judge's, decision in another case, how they were using it to charge me. They could only charge me with misdemeanors. Like I said, they tried to threaten me with the felony and all that, but it's just a year for 4 felonies that I should have. I mean, if anything, 30 days on probation. I mean, I did absolutely nothing wrong. They said that I checked the door. I walked through the door. I checked the door and it was locked on the other side. I was going to open it because it was a bottleneck. You know what I mean? And I was trying to let people out. You know, I mean, if the cops would have needed help, I'd have helped them. If the protesters would have needed help, I'd have helped them. It wouldn't have mattered. This is the human race. This is not one against another. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I felt about it. And then all of a sudden the cops, they looked bewildered. It looked, like I said, it looked like the mall cops out there. I mean, I called them the Burger King Patrol. I mean, it was ridiculous. Those guys, I mean, my brother was a police officer. You know what I mean? I understand how it works. And some of these guys were they were either bewildered, didn't know what was going on, or they knew what was going on and they were narcissists, you know, basically.
Super soldiers.
Huh?
Super soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm a pretty big boy and I got a twin brother, so I'm not really afraid of a lot. I mean, I've had a sparring partner all my life, you know what I mean? And, I just I wanted to see all these fools from my couch in person. So that's why I went to DC. I wanted to see the whole thing for myself. I was tired of listening to all this hoopla afterwards.
I know. Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, and the bad thing is it's not even them. They're pawns in the deal. We got people on the inside of our government. You know, you got to figure everybody in Congress right now is illegitimate because our president's illegitimate. I mean, the whole thing's illegitimate. I mean, we haven't voted on a president I don't know how long.
So my question to you, Rusty, tell me where this ends. How is this year going to play out?
That's a good question. That is a good question. I'll put it this way. The last 3 years have been a wild ride, and I don't think it's going to get any better towards the end here. And I've been in prison. Everybody else has watched this from the couch. I seen it all. Never expected to go through any of this, but I'm not backing up either. These people are no better than I am. These are people that are just evil, for one, and have no soul. There's, I was raised by the right people to be the person I am. And I don't know, I can't explain what causes that evil in people. And I don't know, but I mean, put it this way, we can, we're not afraid of it. We're not running from it. Okay. But I'm not by it either. Okay. That's all I know is I'm not bugging out. I'm bugging in. If you got, I mean, that's simple as that. If you guys get in my face somewhere and I've got to go tribal, then that's here we go. I mean, what are you going to do? Throw me in prison? You've already done that.
What about you, William? What do you have to say? How's this going to look?
I hope, I dream that it's going to be a benefit for everybody if we all come together. I know it's going to take a lot more than just Donald Trump to be there and do it for us. I think it's, as a community, we have to come together as poll watchers, as notaries, as individuals that really give a crap about our republic. And if that means Texas secedes from where we need to secede from the dumb people, then so be it. And at the end of it, I'd like to leave something better for my son. I mean, he's 25 years old in Austin and living life, being a musician, having a great job as a surveying and a crew chief. And he's just making my wife and I proud. And like I forgot to mention, or I didn't have a chance to mention, every time I get onto a podcast or any kind of show, the FBI about 30 minutes really gets in, and all of a sudden it's not necessarily the site that you got onto, man, but it's just all J6ers have this aura about the presence of our handlers, whomever they may be, having their dabbles into our phones, into our computers. Whether we give them permission or they ask for permission, they just do it. So when our phones die all the time, our interruptions in our spaces, in our podcast, it's all pre-programmed to keep the narrative and the thing to their skew, not the truth. So in the end, I'd like to see the truth come out, not just for J6ers, but the nefarious actions and all the things, in the child trafficking and the adrenochrome, and who stole our gold in the Twin Towers.
That's all. Yep, every bit of it. J6 is just an ending.
It's a sleight of hand. It's a blame it on us so that they can blame the patriots, that they're really the ones that are awoke, not woken, that are awake and are trying to tell everybody else, hey, they're doing this in front of you. You get off the TV, quit being programmed. Just because you're not taking any drugs doesn't mean you're not stuck on a phone. I mean, we're all stuck on these TikTok 3-second videos or minute videos that nobody can get back to life itself and interact at the dinner table, or don't talk politics at the dinner table. Well, now we have to. I wasn't political until I became a political prisoner. Now that I'm a political prisoner, you bet your butt I'm going to be all in it and figure out where the rhinos are at, where the bad imposters are at, and say, hey, why? Let's ask, you guys want to ask questions, why on us? I'm going to turn around and ask, what rules do I really need to follow? You tell me I need to follow the rules. What are they?
God's rules, the ones that matter.
Now that you've set precedents that you don't believe in God's rules, they only believe in the rules that they make, and that they don't believe in our Constitution.
Right.
So there's a problem. We have to find out what rules we're playing by. Is it opera? Is it Macbeth? I mean, what rules are we going by so we can follow them?
They're shooting at the ex-president. I mean, what kind of rules we got to make here? I mean,
right.
And then
before, when President Trump was elected and he was president, how many actors went out there and did a beheading of Donald Trump?
Right.
Or some kind of death to Donald Trump in action of. I mean,
this is not okay. It's like, this is not, there's no
little bit.
under any circumstances, is any of this okay?
No, it's
not even when we got people that just 2 weeks ago were up there burning American flags, defacing our monuments at the Capitol, at the White House, and they all got arrested and let go the next day. And then that same day there was January 6ers that were being arrested on misdemeanor charges the same day they were let go.
Yeah.
If that's not a two-tiered political system justice, I don't know what in the world is.
Yeah, it's
accuse us of a coup. And the coup occurred November 3rd of 2020. And the frustrating thing was all the people, when I was arrested, to go, well, honey, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. And I'm going, why weren't you there?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're starting to see the truth. And I'm going to tell you, I thought all of that 9/11 stuff was conspiracy theory, all these other things. Now I'm seeing where it was all adrenochrome. That sounded ridiculous. Now I realize, oh my goodness, there's enough evidence. You would have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe it's not true.
All I'm going to say is if you don't believe the Twin Towers weren't an inside job, go look up at who the security contractors were a year or two before the towers fell. And I'll guarantee you George W. Bush owned a security company that happened to do all the renovations on the Twin Towers. It's right there in black and white, a paper trail from Dallas, Texas, all the way to the dang towers. I know it's there. People just don't want to look.
How about the insurance check that was written after it happened?
Yeah,
most definitely.
Silverstein. Can you guys put your phone numbers in the chat here on the private chat so that you do that from where you're at or get them to me? Because that's helpful so that I can contact you guys and also make connections, because I'm sure other people would like to interview you also. So that
I appreciate it. I mean, we got to get our story out because none of them are the same.
No.
And we all have different attachments, and now we're all connected. Now all 1,500 or 2,000 of us that are the only men standing, the only women standing, the only people that left for our republic that gave it across. I mean, to be honest with you, January 6th, do I want to be back up there in D.C. again? I'd love to, but I might jump on a kayak in a George Washington outfit and paddle around the Potomac.
And avoid those people with helmets on.
Yes, most definitely.
Oh, this is funny. Well, how about we do this? You want to go around the room and do last words here, and then we'll have you pray, Jalise. I love that.
Okay, thank you. So, William, start with you.
Last words is I'm grateful for everybody that has gave the courage to help the January 6ers in every little aspect and affect of it. There's a lot of people that are not knowledgeable at all about what's going on, and if we don't continue spreading the word and telling people and letting everybody know that it's not as nefarious as they say we are, it's as nefarious as they are. And we need to come together because there is three sides to every story. There's theirs, mine, and the truth. And if I stay in the truth and the guidelines of the good Lord, I think I'll be all right. And he's got my back. And as long as I support him, he'll support me. And the only way I can show people that is by doing it. And giving my faith and my trust into him is only what a person can by themselves. It's not anybody else. You can't go up to anybody and say, hey, Jalise, you need to just give the Lord the... No, that's a trust thing between you and him.
Yeah.
As it is between me and him.
And as it's tested, it's solidified.
And if we don't show the average individual that don't even know Jesus that we have faith and trust in him, that it's by his plan, then how are we going to prove it by just saying it? We have to walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
Part of that is the no fear. When you have no fear,
turning fear into faith. Right. You can't have fear. You can't have faith without fear. You got to have a little bit of fear to keep you a little bit of humble. I mean, because there's a lot of scary stuff in this world, and if you don't acknowledge the scary stuff, you're living oblivious to what's going on around you.
That's awesome. William, do you have a gifts and go?
I do. It's I think I sent you the link, or had Nicole sent you the link. I'll try to get it to you again. But it's just a William Sarsfield. It has my name in it. It's William Sarsfield III, and it's under just a give, send, go. I don't want to play with any of the other ones because I'd much rather have prayers if nothing else. To me, I'm much richer with people around me and family and friends that actually care about me and have my 6 as a dollar. The dollar bill is, to me, it's worthless. Always has been. The camaraderie of farming and family and friends and Native Americans, I mean, it's lost and we need to go back.
That's beautiful. All right, Russell, what about you? Closing statements?
Did we say that again?
Closing statements?
Well, I'm waiting for the closing statements. All right. I don't know who they're going to come from. I'm going to start buying helmets for everybody, I think.
Helmets and Windex.
Helmets and Windex. Yeah, there you go.
Where they're licking the windows.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
it's not my fault they're all addicted to Windex.
Yeah. I just like I said, I've still got my case in front of the Supreme Court because I've appealed it as far as I can appeal. I've already done the time. I'm only about 4 or 5 months from getting off of supervised release. I'm done. But they, I have a chance on a certiorari or whatever. We appealed something and they came back and the DOJ said they weren't going to comment on it, and then the Supreme Court told them, "Oh, yes, you are." So they made them come back with a response, and now it's on their side of the net. I don't know what we do from here. I can't never get the year back, but I feel like I was falsely imprisoned. I feel like the stress of all this hasn't helped me or my health or anything. I was semi-retired. I mean, you know what I mean? And they've made everything. I almost lost everything, and that's why I know the Lord works for me, because He's always given me exactly what I needed, no more, no less. And I still got it pretty good compared to a lot of people out there. I wish my health was a little bit better because of what they've fed me basically, and I couldn't get any help. And of course now our whole system is like, you can buy insurance all you want. Good luck trying to find somebody that you want to use it with. Whether you I was, like I said, I took care of my mother for 10 years. I could be a nurse. I've done everything you can imagine, and if I wasn't paying attention, they'd have killed her 2 years in. She lived 10 years, so it's just, we've got a bunch of people out there that like job titles that can't do their job.
They like money.
Well, but they can't do their job. So they're put it this way: when I fix your car and it doesn't look right down the side, you tell me all about it. When you screw up somebody that I'm related to with a bad decision in the health office, it's different. I can sand mine off and repaint it. You can't. You know what I mean? And it's just amazing. It's the hiring. They're not hiring the best people anymore. These are just seat fillers.
They're placing them. They're selected. Jalise.
Yes. So, Rusty, just by chance, do you have Gifts and Go?
I don't have Gifts and Go. I did share my I have a Cash App. I tried to start a Gifts and Go at the beginning of all this, and they wouldn't talk to me unless I was backed up by a nonprofit organization. And I was an individual.
Mine's been shut down by the feds. I don't know how they did it. I don't even care because I didn't.
Well, they took my Social Security. They actually back charged me for 2 checks that they sent me while I was in prison. I mean, you name it, they've just majorly screwed with me.
They're committing crimes. They're all gonna pay for this at some point in time, for certain.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing I'm good at being broke.
Without a helmet.
Without a helmet.
So the people can give to AmericanPatriotRelief.org, and we serve the needs of J6ers. So please keep that in mind also. These guys won't be on the Adopt a J6er because, as you see, they're out of prison. However, you can donate to the organization and they can apply for that assistance. So thank you all for hearing us out. I feel so blessed and honored, Donna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Donna.
This is so nice to talk to you guys. And here, I'm going to put my number in the chat for you too.
Perfect.
And so you're welcome to call anytime. You never know when you need a friend. And Rusty, send me your, I don't have your number yet. I've got yours.
I tried to put it in there and it wouldn't let me, it wouldn't bring a keyboard up. So when I'm,
Okay.
if I'll find
you.
you.
I just put mine in there. So write it down or something. Jalise, did you say a prayer? And we're going to end today. And thank God and welcome Papa into this. Okay.
All glory to God.
All glory
Heavenly Father, we come before you with a heart of gratitude that even through the sufferings that your mighty hand has protected us, you have rose us up, you have given us a platform and a story. The lives we lived 4 years ago is no more. And although we grieve the loss of what once was, Father, we are excited about what's to come. We know that you win in the end. We know that your hand of protection and love and mercy is on us. We pray for the people that they have ears to hear, that they have a compassionate heart. You say that even with all the gifts, it would sound like a banging gong if we don't do it in love. And Father, I pray for the people that they do all things through you, for you, to glorify you and to share love. All this we praise your name for. Amen.
God, please give everyone here your favor. Walk with them this day. Give them hope and the help that they need in all things. Better health for Rusty and for William. Your blessings and your provision for him, and certainly for Jalise to increase her message and the things that she's talking about. Increase her audience that we get this message out there, and all the help to all the J6ers. Bless each and every one of them. Give them the peace that passes understanding, your peace as you carry them through these struggles and these times. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. So
Amen.
I gotta ask for favor upon you guys, okay? Every time we step, this is my thing. So, all right, guys, this is the way we end it here. So go to ding 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 brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump about that, because I wear cowboy boots. I don't know. So anyhow, I just want to thank everyone for being here. And I hope that you're hearing these stories of overcoming unattainable odds, okay, or indescribable odds, because when your faith is tested is when you come up against something that it looks like it's unovercomable, and they didn't capitulate anyway. They didn't sign the plea deals. They stood for it unwavering. And that's what we're going to have to do as we move forward in this nation, standing together and look at how, I hope you guys can see it. I can see it. I can see the truth and the honesty, the authenticity coming out of these stories. These stories are for real. And there are brothers and sisters in Christ as well as in America. This is what this is all about. Satan comes to destroy, and they're going after people who have true faith in Christ. Well, that's fine. That's fine. We know how the story is going to end, and it's not going to end well for anyone. And so that's not standing with God. And we pity the future of those people who have walked away from God and Jesus Christ. We really do. We ask that you turn around and take the time. If you have anything that you're hurting about, a lot of the people that are getting sucked into this whole transgender mess, especially the children, walk away. Stand for something. You don't have to go in with a crowd. The world is always changed by individuals, not the crowd. And God always has his remnant. There's always a remnant that God leads behind. Be part of that remnant. Be brave enough to say what needs to be said without making excuses for it, because the fear of God is good. The fear of man is not good. If you're fearing what people think about you, you're probably in a very weakened position, and the enemy's going to pick you off. And because this is a game of it, we're in a battle with principalities and powers. So stand strong and stand for something unwavering, and watch God's miracles happen, because they will. So with that said, everybody, here's the heart hands time. God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. It starts here, here, and here. And you know what? Do the right thing, even if nobody else does it. Have the courage to do the right thing and stand for it. You won't even believe the wonderful strength and abilities God gives you when you stand against all odds, and you stand and you refuse to give in to this stuff. The blessings will pour into you like you can't even believe it. God will hold you up. It takes a little bit of faith.
Amen. Amen.
Keep going.
The next right thing. The next right thing. That's all you can do. The next right thing.
Yep. One step at a time. So have a great day. Stay on the line, guys. I'm going to end the broadcast, and then we will we'll sit here and talk a little bit before we go. So have a great day, everybody. These guys are staying around, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to be a little late. I have to go somewhere tomorrow, but I think that Jalise will carry us through it. I'm going to try to get on at 11 with Jalise. Let's see, we've got Liberty Essentials tomorrow, and then I'll be back on Thursday. It'll be at the time of the J6 broadcast on both Wednesday and Thursday. So the rest of the schedule is going to be a little up in the air. So probably won't be on right at 9 o'clock tomorrow or Thursday, but J6 is going to go on. And so have a great day today, and we will be back tomorrow.